Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
To another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. In this episode, we're going to have my buddy Trent Crumpler from Thumper Outdoors. If you don't know who that is, it's he's a good buddy of mine. He is actually a partner of the podcast, and he has a YouTube channel called Thumper Outdoors. What he does is he films hunts, and he also does product reviews like broadheads, bows, all that stuff. So it's going to be very informative. We are going to talk about broadheads, but before we get into it, need to go through all the partners. I'm going to do this one really quick. I know the 100th episode was a decently long intro. There's a lot to talk about there. Before we get into the partners, though, just going to say, kind of a quick update with this deer season. Trike daylighted this morning on the day of recording this, and we're getting our first cold front this weekend. So the weekend of I believe it's 11th and 12th. So I will be in the tree stand for the first time in the morning this year, going after him. Changed the setup completely. Did shoot a doe last week, did not recover her, which really sucks. But that's part of it. It was kind of a whirlwind of things, but pick up from the mistakes and do better next time is basically the way I'm looking at it. So, all right, partners. Like I said, I'm going to run through this really quick. The Bow Hunting League. Go to bowhuntingleague.com to check out all the stuff that they have as far as products. Go find their Facebook page. You do that, you can follow along with all the people that are putting bucks down and does. It's an amazing contest, an amazing thing that they're doing for the hunting community. Very, very thankful to be working with them. And next up is going to be the Boutique. Best custom arrow wraps out there, best arrow builds I've seen. Michael can literally do anything that you need. So go to theboutiquellc.com, check out all the pre-made stuff, and then if you want some custom stuff, he can do that for you as well. And when you do that, use the code SEBHP for free shipping. Next up is gonna be Osteo Gear, dude. Last week's episode with Joe was extremely informative. Very, very blessed to be able to call Joe a friend and really a mentor in a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. I look at scouting a completely different way now. When I did that new setup, I was able to basically find what I consider a funnel, just tons of sign, tons of obvious trails and stuff that all lead to one central point, which is where I'm set up. So who knows? I mean, we're getting into the rut. This truly could be a really, really good sit this weekend. And Osteo, that's the camo brand that I trust. They have kept me concealed all season. And, it's just an amazing company. So go to osteogear.com, check out all the stuff that they have. And when you do that, use the code SEBH to get 15% off site-wide. Next up is going to be Summit Tree Stands. My Dual Threat Pro SD, man, I love that tree stand. It is great. And that's not the only stand that they make. They have the Viper. They've got the Goliath. They've got the Open Shot. They literally have you covered every which way, whether it's a climber or a hang on. They have tons of accessories. So go to summitstands.com and at checkout, use the code SEBH15 to also save 15%. Next up is going to be Scout Tech. Y'all be sending up some prayers for Ryan and them, man. They got hit hard by that hurricane that came through. Hopefully the one that's hitting Florida at this very moment or just about to hit it doesn't do too much damage. And, the weather's being crazy this year. But the Scout Tech cameras made it through it. I know Ryan's made it through it. The family's okay. And, the orders might be a little bit slow right now, but just bear with them. They're dealing with a lot. So go to scouttech.com, check out everything they have. There is a new camera coming up, a new app update. I know that unlimited data is coming as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. Next up is going to be Ace Hardware and Social Circle. Go see Hunter, go see John, go see Mark. All those guys, man, great dudes. They sell everything that you need. That's my preferred shop to go to. Then, Bergie Bowsmith. You want to get a little bit more in depth with your bow tuning, Bergie is the guy to go to. Go to bergiebowsmith.com. He is now a dealer for a bunch of different brands. I don't even remember how many or which ones they are, but it's pretty much all the brands that we use anyway. And go to bergiebowsmith.com. Go pick out whatever you want that's on there, or send him your bow, or for him to tune, or new strings from Unbound, any of that, and use the code SEBH10 to save you 10%. Okay, VPA. VPA is the broadhead that I use. I'm doing a little bit of testing this year. I'm obviously shooting VPAs, but I'm also testing. I'm going to be testing a few mechanicals just to see what they do up against VPA, so that when I tell you guys, which ones I'm using, I can tell you why they're better. Okay, so right now I was using the Omega with bleeders. That one I shot the doe with. A little bit of insight. I honestly don't know why, but I got like really, really bad buck fever when that doe walked out. I rushed the shot. It was not the Broadhead's fault, but I'm pretty confident that I made a bad shot. But full pass through. I mean, completely full pass through. The Broadhead is perfectly fine. I think that I just hit really high and went through the back muscles, and either that or I just made a bad shot, and because the arrow kind of looked a little bit like lung liver, but I don't know, man. That stuff's eating me up. But look, VPA makes an amazing product. They have a lifetime warranty. I don't know of any other company that does that. So go to vparchery.com, check out over 70 different broadheads. Once you see something that you like, ranging from a single bevel, double bevel, single bevel with bleeders, 3-blade, all that stuff. They also have, small game heads. They have bow risers, and they sell Victory arrows there as well. So that's a direct source to get some Victory arrows. Victory is a partner of the podcast, and my arrow of choice, in my opinion, the best arrows on the market. So VPA has you covered in every way. So at checkout, use the code SEBH10 for 10%. Next up is gonna be Dialed Archery. Dialed Archery actually just dropped a new site called The Proof. I don't have one yet, but I have heard really good things. And dude, just looking at it and checking out the specs and stuff, it's amazing. They also still have the Arxos, which is the site that I'm using, and I love it. It is the best bow site I've ever used. So go to Dialed Archery, go check out all the new stuff that they have, and go pick you up one of those new proofs. Next up is gonna be Camo Dust. Dude, Camo Dust really has saved my ass a couple times. I've hunted where, I've been testing it a lot, and I will hunt when the wind is not in my favor. And with trike, he shows up every single time downwind, and that deer's smart. And Camo Dust has had me basically, when I saw him 2 weeks ago, Camo Dust concealed me from him. Unfortunately, I didn't conceal myself from him. I, let down my bow way too early. Maybe not way too early. It was just kind of right at last light, and I didn't think he was going to show. It's just a rookie mistake. But Camo Dust has kept me at least hidden from the deer's noses every single sit. I have not gotten winded once. So really amazing product. We are going to be getting Chris on later this month. And so go to camodust.com and go order you a few cans and see how good it truly is. Okay, next up, Typical Sportsman, my buddy Dylan Ray. He was on a couple weeks ago. He has a website now called typicalsportsman.com. He's selling some really cool merchandise, some really cool shirts and hats. I know there's more stuff coming. It's actually some really big stuff coming with him that I cannot talk about right now, but once it's out, I'll tell you guys. So go to typicalsportsman.com and use the code typical20 to save 20%. And last but not least is Full Force Hunting Products. So Full Force Hunting Products, real quick, is a company out of Michigan. My buddy Dan Schultz owns it. And he and I were talking, and he wanted to send me over some stuff, some basically like attractants, minerals. I think there's like a scent rope or something in there. I don't really remember everything he sent, but he does make all of that. And I plan on using it. I mean, truly, I plan on using it. I will hopefully have that stuff in before I go hunt. So when I go hunt, I can take it in with me and try it out, see how the deer like it. I've heard really good things about it, and Dan's just a really good dude. So go to Full Force Hunting Products on Facebook, and I believe also go to fullforcehuntingproducts.com and check out all the stuff that they have. Dan has a podcast as well. So does Dylan. He's the host of the Bear Archery podcast. Go check that out. Go check Dan's podcast out. I think it's just called Full Force Hunting Products. Just really, really awesome partners. I'm very thankful to be able to work with these guys. Okay, that's all the partners. Before we get started with Trent, as you know, I always have to talk about Jesus. I always have to just put it out there. Every single episode, God puts it on my heart to say something about it. And I've got a lot of buddies right now going through some really tough times. And, I just ask that you guys pray for them, pray for anybody that needs them, pray for the people in Florida, pray for the people in North Carolina, Tennessee, Augusta, just all the places that have been getting hit by these crazy storms. It's it's insane. I don't think I've ever seen Florida get smacked by hurricanes this much, and then they come up and affect us too. Like that was probably the wildest storm I've ever been in, and I wasn't even in the middle of it. I was in Augusta earlier this week, and I saw the damage, and it was eye opening. So I know that a lot of them are believers and they're followers of Christ, and I believe that's what got them through it. I was driving through Augusta and I saw this church, and what was so interesting to me about it is the church was perfectly fine. The woods around it were pretty much destroyed, and there was three crosses at the front, and the crosses were spotless. So if that's not God showing out a little bit, I don't know what is, man. But yeah, I place my faith in Jesus all the time, not just when things are tough, but all the time. And I really think you should too. So, all right, that's my rant. That's the intro. A lot of things we're going to cover with Trent. It's been a minute since he's been on here, so I'm sure there's a lot to talk about. Definitely want to talk about his Broadhead reviews. That has been a big thing for me lately. You guys know I love Broadheads and talking Broadheads. So, enough rambling on. Let's get into it with Trent Crumpler from Thumper Outdoors. Got my buddy Trent Crumpler from Thumper Outdoors. You don't know who that is, or who the name of the title is, or anything like that, then you're really missing out, because this dude does some amazing product reviews. He's got some good hunting videos, and he's just an all around good dude. Trent, it's been a while since you've been on here, man. I know you've had a lot going on. A lot has changed. So what
Yeah, man.
what's new, man? What you been up to?
Uh, well, a whole lot's new. On the personal side of things, I got engaged. So
Congratulations.
somebody was foolish enough to stick around long enough for me to put a ring on it.
I know the feeling.
Sucker. Yeah. On the archery side of things, man. Well, where to start? So, got engaged. We bought a house, and the house in the basement, I built a shop. So I've been running a shop out of my basement, doing a ton of bow work for the local customers and stuff like that. I'm still building arrows, social media, all that good stuff. Still doing broadhead reviews. I've upped my broadhead review game quite a bit. I've invested, uh, probably an extra $1,000 total in new equipment and stuff like that to do broadhead reviews with. I've started doing a different style of broadhead review that takes a whole heck of a lot more work, but I think for me personally it's more fun, and I think it's more interesting for the viewers, where I'm comparing very similar heads
Mhm.
against one another and several different processes. So like the video that I have up now is 2-inch mechanicals. So it's 5 different 2-inch mechanicals, all head to head. No, basically the only difference is who makes them. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what I'm trying to stick with in this style of video. Is I want to find broadheads that are same weight, same cutting diameter, same style, single bevel, double bevel, whatever it may be, pit them against each other and just see who comes out on top. So
Yeah,
the next one of those I have coming up is single bevels. Like
that's gonna be interesting, dude. Because I watched the video you're talking about, and it was so funny because I I've watched your other stuff before, obviously. Like that's how I found you and stuff. I mean, I still remember one of the first videos I watched, I think was like a slang blade broadhead review. That sucker fell apart. And I was
dude, that's
like,
how a lot of people found me.
yeah. Well, because it's a wild looking head. And it's like I look at it and I'm like, there's no way. And I think on the last episode we talked about it, and we both pretty much agreed that maybe it's a good turkey head, but I don't think I'd ever
Yeah,
shoot that at a deer, you know?
big 4-inch cut expandable single bevel. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. Like you said, turkey head, I wouldn't shoot at a deer, but that company, they've killed all kinds of stuff all over the planet with that thing. I mean, they've
Yeah,
killed red stag and everything, which is great. Good for them, man. It's just
I wouldn't do
not,
it.
yeah, not for
Yeah.
me.
So, all right. So let's just dive into it then. So that broadhead review you did had a few broadheads in there that I've been interested in. I mean, I know I'm working with VPA and all of that, but I like to tinker with stuff. I'm
Sure.
doing my own, I guess, form of testing this year. Had my first test subject this past week and did not recover her. And that was with a single bevel with bleeders. And
Okay.
again, I probably made a bad shot. Like, I said in the intro, I don't know what happened, but I got extremely nervous, like crazy buck fever. Probably was a little dehydrated because it was super hot and I didn't drink anything. And I rushed the shot. And from my recollection, it looked like a double lung. Then when I checked the arrow, it had blood on it, full pass through. I mean, just right through this deer like butter, which is what you want. But the blood was a little bit to be desired. And when I went to go track, I checked the arrow, looked at the blood around. It looked good. And then I went over to where I had seen her walk, and she was bedded up 80 yards away. And as soon as I got close enough, she got up and just gone. And the blood trying to, like, I found only two areas that had blood, where I shot her and where she was bedded, and that's it. And so it got me thinking, it's like, okay, well, I had to have made a worse shot than I thought, right? Like, smelled the arrow, kind of smelled a little bit like liver. I just gave her time, went back and looked. I could not find her, dude. And it brought the thought in my head, like, well, maybe if I made that same shot with a mechanical, that it would have been an easier recovery, or she would have actually, she could still be alive for all I know. Like, I have no idea. So I mean, like, that video popped in my head, and you tested a bunch of different heads. Two of which I've been interested in is the T2 and the Beast. And I don't remember the other ones that were in that video. So can you kind of tell people who haven't seen that video, like, what you tested, how you tested, and what your thoughts on those broadheads were?
Yeah, so it is the Rage Trypan NC, the Beast Broadhead, the G5 T2, the B3 RD2, and what was the fifth one? Beast. Oh, this is gonna bother me. Beast, Rage, T2,
B3.
B3 RD2.
You want me to look it up?
Yeah, if you can.
I'll look it up.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, give me just a second to look it up. Let's see. Just Thumper. Here we go. All right, so it was. Oh, the Sever.
Oh, there you go. The Sever
Yeah.
2.0.
Yeah.
Okay, so
how did we forget that? Of all the broadheads, how did we forget Sever? That's good.
For me, I deal and touch and mess with so many broadheads.
Yeah.
Like, I still spend probably $4,000 a year on broadheads. I probably spend more than most people spend on hunting in general in a year, and that includes buying a new bow every year on just broadheads.
That's insane.
So for me, it's like
two of those broadheads I've used, and
yeah,
I've had good results from one of them. The other, well, I say I used, okay, so like a Rage, recovered every single time, animal was dead in 30 yards. Sever, I never got the chance to shoot it at an animal, but as far as, shooting it and used them, and they love them. So other than that, all those other ones I have not used yet. So
okay, so when I like, for me, this video was a lot of fun because I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
And I didn't go in with any preconceived notions. Like, I genuinely just wanted to see, like, how do these all stack up against each other? They're all what I would consider in the same class: 100 grains, 2-inch cut mechanical. Like, and that's really the big popular. Rage is the one that popularized that design after they bought it from Rocky Mountain. So I went into this kind of open-minded and seeing, like, what's what. How is everything going to shake out? So in that video, and I'm going to probably screw this up too, but I tested the out of package sharpness. Then I have a $700 machine that basically tests the force it takes to push the broadhead through leather. And I kind of had to build a frame structure to make that all work. So I put them all through that. And the cool thing with that is it records it on computer software on my laptop. Then I can go back and look at the chart. And so that's I've never seen anybody else do that in any video.
Yeah.
It's very, very unique system. It's a very cool system. It's a fun toy. Then after that, I did, I think after that, I just did the durability.
Yeah. So I remember you shot in like an elk shoulder or a cow shoulder, right?
It's cow femur.
Cow femur. Wow. Okay. I knew it was a cow bone. I couldn't remember what it was though.
Yeah. So the whole goal behind that is, like, that is going to be way more dense, way more awful than any whitetail bone, probably any elk bone that we'll ever encounter.
Yeah.
A cow. I didn't realize how ridiculous cow bones are until I got those femurs, and I'm talking, they're big around as a body armor bottle.
Yeah.
And it's just solid bone. So that was a little bit more than I expected, but I have a local butcher that gets them in all the time, and I can get a relatively good stock of them. So to me, it made sense. Plus, if a broadhead will deal with that, I have zero doubt it should be able to deal with a whitetail bone.
Yeah.
And then after that, I tested the remaining sharpness or the aftermath sharpness of if I could.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for me, the two interesting things that I took away is first, when it came to the mechanicals going through the leather on that machine, they were all really in a very similar ballpark. And
Really?
it takes a lot of I think it's pound force. I kept messing that up in the video
Like
too, but
foot
it takes
pounds
a
or
lot.
something?
Yeah, well, it's not foot pounds because that's where I kept messing up. It's pounds force.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically just how many pounds of force it takes to push through.
Yeah.
So all of those broadheads are really in the same like ballpark as far as how much it takes to really get through, and at how much it takes to get to the point which the broadhead opens. That's something I didn't explain very well in that video. There's a point where you can see on that chart where the broadhead pops open.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much force it takes to get to that point. That's not how much force it takes to open the broadhead.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people were saying, well, that's not true. All these people have proven that it takes like less than a pound of force to open the broadhead. That wasn't what I was getting at. It's just that it'll take 40 pounds of force, we'll say, to get to the point where that broadhead will open versus 30 in another one.
Yeah.
And then what shocked me and a big takeaway was with the Beast broadhead, I expected it to have way lower numbers than everybody else, and it actually had the worst numbers of all of them.
Really?
Yeah, so I because of the way that's designed with the blades collapsing,
Yeah.
I really fully expected it to collapse in on itself, penetrate the leather easiest because it'd be a smaller cutting diameter going through the
Yeah.
leather. And in that video, the Beast had the worst numbers.
That's concerning because I've got a pack of beasts showing up because I want to try them out.
And so you want to talk about fanboys?
Yeah.
Like kudos to Bomar for the cult following he's built,
Yeah.
because I have never got so much shit over a broadhead in my life. There were people that would have burnt my house down, I think, if they had the opportunity over that video.
Oh my
And I mean, I had accusations of, oh, it's because you hate Bomar, that's why you made it do that. Like, dude, I didn't make it do anything. I just filmed the video. Like, I'm showing you guys exactly what happened. So
Yeah.
that was kudos. Like I said, kudos for him for the cult following. But good Lord, those were the worst fanboys I've ever encountered. And that's pretty sad because I came up in the archery world where Matthews fanboys were the bane of the existence of archery.
Yeah.
So, but the Beast did the worst in that test. And then actually it did the worst pretty much overall in the entire video. It was sharp as shit out of the package.
Yeah.
I will give him credit there. But with the Calf Beamer, the broadhead basically exploded.
Yeah.
It blew into a million pieces, which there's a couple things that it's disadvantage. One, it's got a bigger ferrule than all the other broadheads. Two, it's a hollow ferrule because he's got to have the spring system internally.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough force and pressure in that spring system that if it almost acts like a bomb and blows it to pieces if you crack that ferrule because of all the pressure in that spring. That's just a guess. I don't have any kind of basis or proof of that, but that's just kind of a thought process behind that. But I disintegrated that broadhead on a cow femur.
I mean, I could see that because like I was looking up, the whole sharpening beast blades and replacement blades because I heard that they were going to be making some. And I remember seeing somewhere, or maybe it was Josh talking about it because I did watch a few of his videos on that head.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you can resharpen these inside the broadhead, but don't try to take them out because that spring is loaded so much it'll just pop out and explode and all that. And so I think you're right. I mean, I think the way that that's designed, it's basically just like a little bomb that if it does crack or break or fail or whatever, well, now you've just got a grenade inside of an animal. It's like might kill him.
Which I mean, yeah, exactly. But I honestly overall I was surprised that the Beast was at the bottom of the barrel because I really would have expected it to be more towards the top.
Yeah.
Now, preface this, or I guess put a period on the end of that by saying I'm still very confident that broadhead would kill anything you wanted to kill with it. For Christ's sake, he took it all over the planet and shot a bunch of things with it and killed animals with it. It's not like it doesn't kill things. It's not like it's gonna explode when you shoot or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just in that testing that I did, it fell to the back of the pack. Now, the other thing that shocked me with that video was the way the Rage Trypan NC handled the bone. I fully expected the Rage to be bottom of the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be really honest, I hated the original Rage design. I really like their no collar design. I particularly like the hypodermics, but that doesn't make them any more durable. And the Rage's biggest black eye forever was the durability.
Yeah.
And then I center punch a cow femur with that Trypan, and it's completely fine to the point where I could lock it back in place and shoot it again if I wanted to.
See, that's the one thing is I've shot both the no collar hypodermic and the Trypan no collar, and I agree completely. Like that Trypan is probably the stuff, or God, I can't talk today. The stoutest Rage that they've ever made. And I've broken blades on the hypodermic before, just shooting it into a bag target to check, because I had bought a few, so I had extras. I was checking flight, and when I went to pull it out, half the blade's missing. And I'm like, in foam? I mean, I guess I get it. Dang, dude. So yeah, I was shocked too. Like when you did that test, I was extremely shocked that it held up as well as it did.
Yeah, it surprised me too, because as much as I like the hypodermic, it is 100% a one and done head.
Yeah.
The thing I particularly liked about the hypodermic is that it had a small steel ferrule so that you could just replace the blades and potentially have something that keeps going. But I think Rage really hit a home run with the titanium they used for the Trypan. And if you look at a Trypan blade versus a hypodermic blade, they're way beefier.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot more material there. So it doing as well as it did really shocked me. I'll tell you another thing in that video, the sever. I broke the sever on a cow femur.
That's nuts. I remember that.
Yeah, so, and it didn't shatter into a million pieces. All basically what happened is the slot in the ferrule had bent, and then the head broke off, which that tells me that they're probably not using the graded titanium they should be using.
Yeah.
It's not cheap to use better titanium.
Yeah.
Like they would have to raise their prices. But to me, if you're going to have a titanium broadhead, because what a lot of people don't understand, titanium's become a sales word. Titanium is not all built the same. It's much like aluminum.
Yeah.
Soda can aluminum is not the same thing as 775 aircraft grade aluminum.
Yep.
Well, titanium's the same way. A grade 8 titanium bolt, like if you use that for your tree stands, that'll hold your weight. But I think it's grade 3. It's very soft. It'll bend, it'll flex, or grade 5. I can't remember exactly, but it's not all built the same. So just because it says titanium doesn't make it good. And I think that's kind of what happened there with the Sever is it's just using a lower grade titanium that allows bending and then breakage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like people draw comparisons all the time with like, I'm sure your stuff and like John Lusk, right?
Oh yeah.
And what was so wild is when I saw that Sever break, I was coming off of seeing all of John's videos where he shoots a Sever into a cinder block and it's perfectly fine. So what that told me is that shooting a cow femur apparently generates more force to the point where the Sever just can't handle it, which is nuts. So
I've thought about that in depth, right? Because I've had that with not only the Sever but other broadheads where people go, well, Lusk did it and it was perfectly fine. So here's the thing that I'm taking away from it. So if you watch Lusk shoot a cinder block, arrow hits, arrow bounces off.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot a cow femur, arrow hits, arrow sticks.
Yeah.
So the difference you're having is that the cinder block is a solid enough material that your energy is hitting and rebounding, and it's not really being transferred into the head as much as it's being transferred through the head back into the arrow.
That makes sense.
Whereas a bone is soft enough, and the things we're shooting are made to penetrate bone, pierce bone, break bone. Yeah. A bone is soft enough that it'll pierce and it'll stick. And what happens is instead of that energy rebounding, it all gets shoved basically into the bone, into the head. And again, I don't have any like scientific backing on that, but that's the only thing I can figure. Because obviously a cinder block's harder material than bone.
Yeah.
But it's a different type of material.
Yeah. It kind of focuses the energy where it's getting hit rather than dispersing it out and having all that energy go into the head, like you were saying. So I can see that.
Another thing is with bone, if you hit bone and something sticks in it, that bone doesn't just stay open. It closes back in on itself. So you figure if you stick a broadhead in bone, when it pops it open, it's going to close back in on itself just naturally, unless you blow chunks out of it. That right there could be enough force potentially to bend a head, smash a head, break a head. I've had a lot of guys tell me with schwackers they don't like them because they don't open. Well, what happens is they shoot a shoulder blade or they shoot a rib bone just right, and it breaks it and then smashes that the slot where the blades are, and it pinches those blades so they can't open. And I've seen that in person.
Yeah.
I have a buddy that used to swear by rage to quit shooting them because he had that. Or sorry, schwackers. He used to swear by schwackers, quit shooting them because he had that happen on a schwacker.
Wow.
So I've seen that in person. So I'm wondering if that is the difference you're saying between a cinder block and a bone.
Yeah. I mean,
Dude,
yeah. I mean, I agree because the mediums are different. And if that bone is really kind of crunching down, that I don't know. I'm not a schwacker guy. Like I've got so
right.
many buddies of mine that shoot them and they're all like, oh man, I'll never shoot anything else. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know, dude. That fold over design, I know it works. I know it's great, but I look at it and I'm like, I wouldn't trust it, And that was
Number one,
kind of sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, number one problem with a schwacker is that it's a 7/8 inch entry.
Yeah.
So if you don't get an exit, that's it. And
Yeah.
it's high. That's
Yeah,
the number one problem with schwacker.
That is exactly why I don't want to shoot them. And so you tested another head, the T2, which
Yep.
I can't lie. When it first came out, I was pretty disappointed. And here's why. Because I was hearing rumors from buddies that, work in archery shops and talk with G5 and they're in the know, right? And this was, dude, whenever, like maybe a few months before it came out, before people got to see what it looks like and all of that and what it is. And I'm thinking that they would go like a mega meat, dead meat route with no collar, which is something I think that they need to try and make. I've had ideas of how they could do it. I think that would be amazing. And then I see that it's basically a rage. And I'm just like, well, and then I heard Dudley's behind it. I was like, oh, well, that makes some sense. Now I've heard really good things. JD just killed a buck a couple days ago with one, and it destroyed that thing. And the broadhead was perfectly fine. So, I mean, what was your opinion on that? Because that's been a head that I've been kind of looking at, like maybe I'd try it, maybe I wouldn't. I mean,
you saying that makes me also remember in that video I did ballistics gel when I was comparing all 5 of those. So ballistics gel is a really cool medium because you can see the wound channel.
Yeah.
There are some problems with ballistics gel. Like, for example, if a really clean slice happens in ballistics gel, that gel will actually close back in on itself and it can make the channel not be what it actually was. Unfortunately, I can't afford a $6,000, 10,000 frame a second camera so that I can slow it down and we can really see everything. It is on my list. It will be a thing eventually, just not right now.
Yeah, it's coming.
It is coming. It is coming. That is one thing I'll always do, invest more and more to find out more and more. But in that test, the G5 T2 penetrated as good as the Beast Broadhead, which that is another thing about that testing. It was very sharp, and that Beast Broadhead penetrated like a mother. It should, though, because those blades collapse become a 1.5 inch cut.
True. And with that density, I can see it because I've seen a lot of videos of people testing them and being like, oh, these broadheads don't even open. And I'm just sitting there like, bro, you're shooting it into ballistics gel. Of course it's not going to stay open. It's literally compressing it.
Yep, that's bullshit. Ballistics gel, that's something else people don't get is ballistics gel is give or take 3 times as dense as soft material inside of an animal. And then it's about half again as dense as hard material inside of an animal. And basically, the history behind ballistics gel is it's a average of the densities of a human body that the FBI created to test terminal ballistics of bullets. Because it's an average of densities, it's going to be more dense than the soft tissue and less dense than the hard tissue.
Yep.
So I was a guy for a long time that didn't like broadheads that didn't lock open because when you shoot them in the gel, they close.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to realize that the gel is much more dense than an animal ever. And what really made me figure that out one time is I shot a deer and I was, pulling out the guts and stuff. And I reached up and grabbed the lungs and went to pull them out and stuck my finger through the lung, like hands through the lungs to grab it, to pull it out. This is kind of morbid, but if you ever are curious about what you're shooting into, gut a deer and then poke around on those organs. They're extremely soft. You can put your finger through lungs.
Oh yeah.
Like you can poke into liver and stuff like that. So once you do that, you start to realize like, oh, like this is nothing.
Yeah. It's way
So
softer
you
than
get
half these mediums these guys are testing.
more than half. I don't even know. I've considered potentially taking a ballistics gel block and hollowing it out and filling it with regular Jello.
Well, okay.
Because
So
I think
you're
regular
onto
Jello
something.
would be as close to a soft medium.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You're onto something because Joe Miles from Osseo has this
Yep.
video. I think we may have talked about this, where he is testing a Mega Meat, Sever, and Rage. And Joe was the biggest Rage guy for the longest time. I always gave him crap for it which is kind of dumb because, like I said earlier, every single animal I've shot with a Rage was dead in 30 yards.
Yeah,
So
but you always got to give Rage guys crap.
exactly. So and it was always in good fun. Like, I've considered using him again and whatever, but he has this video where he's shooting. He's got, I don't remember if it was deer hide or some type of leather around it, but I know that he's got something that's supposed to act like deer hide. And then he has a deer scapula on the inside of that. And then on the other side of that, he's got this, I think it's cardboard box. It could be like plywood or something, like really thin plywood to act as ribs. Inside of that box, he's got Jello, like legitimate, just Jello from the store. And on the other side, it's the same exact thing that's on the front, just wood, scap, hide. And he shot through that with a 650 grain arrow and I believe a 447 grain arrow or 400. No, it was 470. And almost all of them got full pass throughs. And he was like, this is the best medium that I could think of because ballistics gel isn't going to work. We obviously can't just take a deer carcass and shoot it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're onto something there because I know Joe's tried it and it would probably be better to do it the way you're saying is like empty out the block and then fill it with something like Jello because then you actually get to see a softer medium and you can kind of have like the hide be the outside of it, and then have
Yep.
soft stuff on the inside and still be able to see the wound channel.
So yeah, I mean, I think he's spot on. So I'll go ahead and I wasn't ever going to talk about this until I did it in a video because I'm sure it's going to be stolen. If not, I would be
You don't
shocked.
have
But
to.
I found a company. No, because this is important. I found a company that is going to make me a ballistics gel block that has deer scapula on both sides with a deer rib cage in the middle, and I'm going to do 4 scapulas in the block, and then I'm going to try to hollow that out and fill it with Jello.
Ah, that's smart.
And then put like a deer hide. I'm going to try to save a deer hide this season or leather. I've got leather out the ass and put that over the block.
Dude, that's going to be so good.
Because to me, that's as close as I can possibly get.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't shoot. Because I've had people like, why don't you just shoot a deer body?
It's illegal.
Because it's not the same.
Well, and it's illegal. Like it's literally
well,
the whole wasting game law thing.
Yeah, want waste. I think you could probably win that as long as you clean the deer up afterward. Like
That's
if you
true.
went and shot a deer and then shot it again, I think you can get away with it. But the problem is we think of deer as solids, but if you ever pay attention to the way a deer reacts when it drops, when it's shot at, they're fluid.
Oh yeah.
They drop, they roll, they bank, and they do it all that quick. So it's possible your arrow could have started 2 inches of penetration and they dropped and banked. And now where you thought would be a straight pass through, it's coming out 9 inches behind the freaking rib cage. When they are dropping and banking and rolling, their muscles are doing things. So not only are they changing body angle, but their muscles gripping against the shaft can potentially change things. If you blew through a bone, there's pinching of the bone. Like it is a fluid creature that it is physically impossible to recreate. It's just, there's no way to do it. And then this is the great conundrum with broadhead testing because it's physically impossible to recreate an animal. The only way to really test a broadhead is by shooting an animal, but the only way to properly test anything is by eliminating as many variables as possible, which means you would have to get an animal that stands exactly still in exactly the same place at exactly the same distance every single time you shot an animal with a broadhead. And that'll never happen.
Yeah.
So there is no great way to test a broadhead. That's why, like a guy like me, I'm doing everything I can to find ways to not test performance on an animal, but test performance from Broadhead A to Broadhead B.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm shooting a cow femur, which is a way, way denser bone than anything we're going to deal with in a deer. But if Broadhead A performs better in the cow femur than Broadhead B, in my mind, Broadhead A is going to do better on the deer as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean Broadhead B won't kill the deer. Just means Broadhead A will kill it better. It'll perform better in that situation. So that's another way I look at my broadhead testing, man. Is it's like, I'm not telling you just because it performed well on my test, it's going to be the best thing in the world on an animal. What I'm telling you is if it performed well on my test versus another broadhead, it's probably going to perform better on the animal.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's hard.
We've talked about a specific broadhead that I like, and I'm still pretty sure you're not a fan of, which is the Mega Meat. Or has that changed?
No. Well, like, again, it'll do everything it's supposed to. My biggest bitch about the Mega Meat is the blades aren't durable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the dead meat. I love the dead meat.
Yeah, that dude. So I've been looking, like I've got both, right? And I do plan on using them this year. Actually probably this weekend. And I've been kind of debating, like, I'm hunting on 1 acre. I don't know which one I want to use, whether the dead meat or the Mega Meat. I know I've used the Mega Meat in the past, and that broadhead shredded the lungs. I mean, legitimately, like you were saying, you went up, you grabbed him, and your hand was in it. Dude, when I pulled the lungs out, there was ribbons. I don't even know how that happened. There was ribbons, and it was insane. And so I'm kind of just thinking, like, well, shoot, man, I already lost 1 deer over there. I really need to have the most devastating broadhead. But at the other hand, I had a Mega Meat open up on me last year. And while I consider that user error, it still is kind of a little bit of that like insecurity demon in my ear, like, hey man, this could happen again. And the dead meats won't do that because they're tight enough that it won't happen or shouldn't happen. And then they're also loose enough that when it hits the animal, it's going to open. So I don't know, but
I think you nailed something inadvertently. And you mentioned the insecurity demon. Ultimately, what I really want people to get from my videos is confidence.
Yep.
Confidence is what kills animals. Confidence is what makes good shots. Confidence is what recovers animals. So really, my ultimate goal at the end of the day is to give you confidence in either the head you're shooting or the head you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're not sure, and I have a bad test with that particular head, then hopefully that pushes you away from that head because you already are unsure. Like, for example, with the Beast Broadhead, because I did a test on just the Beast Broadhead also and was underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Again, a bunch of hate in the comments. Every single one of those guys in the comments that hated on me that are taking that Beast Broadhead in the woods are confident in the fact it's going to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
I would almost rather see a guy like shit on me and hate on me for that video versus be like, well, I wasn't sure, but I think I'm going to try them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the guy that's shitting on me, at least he's got the confidence in the product. And to me, that confidence is invaluable. Whether you have it and agree with something I make or not, it doesn't make any difference to me. You just have the confidence. So for you, I would typically tell you shoot the Mega Meat because it's a bigger cut and you only have 1 acre.
Yeah.
And
that's probably what I'll do. But
if you're not confident in it, dude, shoot the dead meat. They're both going to kill it as long as you do your job. It's interesting too. You brought up, having a smaller area, so you want to shoot the most devastating head possible. But then you watch videos of guys shooting single bevels, really sharp single bevels and heavy arrows and quiet bows, and they shoot these deer, and the deer take 5 steps and just fall over like they have no idea they're hit.
Dude, and
so
that was my experience this past weekend, which is why I was pushing them. And I mean, obviously, I'm still pushing them. They're a great product, but when I shot that doe, for the first 20 minutes, I really thought that I was going to get down from the tree stand, find the arrow, look over, and 30 yards away, I'd see a white belly. Because the way she acted is exactly how I've seen all these deer act. When they get hit, with a fixed blade and it zips straight through them, and then they run off 10 yards, flick their tail, and start walking a little bit, 90% of the time, they'll fall over. And that's what I was expecting. And so the whole thing that happened, that's why I had to, like I said, it had to have been a bad shot. There's no other explanation. And that falls on me. It doesn't fall on the product. The product's amazing. Those Omegas with bleeders, dude, are stupid sharp. They're stupid accurate, and they're stupid tough. Like, I've got the head down here somewhere. I could show you. It went straight through the deer, hit the dirt, hit a couple rocks. There's no chipping. it's still sharp. I mean, I could shoot it now and kill something with it.
Yep.
I just think, and I've been told this, but I wanted to test it myself, and now I have. I just think that on a small property, having the biggest hole possible, at least with how I know these deer react when they're shot, in this situation is probably the best way to go. Now, when I go to a bigger property, 100%, it's going to be fixed blade, single bevels, all of that. But I mean, again, I could be wrong. You know, I could try this and it could fail again, and then I'm like, well, crap. Now what? I guess I'm going back to the tried and true. So
I think one big key to the single bevels and the deer walking off like they haven't been hit that a lot of people don't talk about is a heavy arrow weight to go with it, particularly because it quiets the bow down so much.
Yeah.
I think the missing piece of that puzzle, because I've talked to guys that are like, well, I shot a deer with a single bow and they ran like a striped ass ape, and just like if I shot it with mechanical.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how loud's your bow?
Yeah.
Because I think what's happening is these guys shooting single bevels are typically running those 600 grain plus arrows, which is always going to quiet your bow down.
Yeah.
So they got a quieter bow, the animal gets shot, and obviously it doesn't make as much shock as a 2-inch hole going through you.
Yeah.
But the animal gets shot and it's kind of like, oh shit. And then it just goes to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it has more to do with the bow noise than it does really the broadhead.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's crazy. That's why I've been kind of struggling with it too. Is last year I shot a doe with the Omega, the original Omega, and perfect shot, 15 yards. She ran 60 and was done. And so I'm like, oh, dude, this is it. Like, this is the third shortest track job I've ever had. And then, this past weekend happened, and the only thing I can think of is it was me. But now, like you were talking about confidence, for that specific place, I'm not confident that a fixed blade is going to do the job quick enough to where I don't have to go down a ravine next to the lake and drag the thing up. And
right.
It also leads to blood trails, which I know, like, I'm kind of on the fence about how important that is. Like, if you shoot a deer and you see it fall, you don't need a blood trail. But if you shoot a deer and you don't see it fall, your blood trail is the only way you're gonna find it. So
yeah, or a grid search.
Well, that too.
So to kind of play on your fixed blade versus a mechanical deal, it would have been,
which I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole, by the way.
Whatever, dude. I'll
it's
talk
fun,
about
and
stuff.
It kind of just happened.
Monday morning, I helped a guy that I know track a deer.
Mm-hmm.
He shot with a Montec.
Okay.
We tracked it. He shot it, and he's like, dude, I know I made a really good shot. It exited in the armpit on the opposite side. Like, you can't ask for a better shot position.
Yeah.
He's like, I watched it in binoculars. It was just pouring blood out of both sides. And I saw the best blood trail I've ever seen from a Montec in my entire life out of this deer. It stopped in the field he shot it in and stood there wobbling for, I think he said 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute. And there was a puddle of blood, probably a foot in diameter, just bubbles.
Yeah.
I mean, if we'd have walked up on that first before we caught the rest of the blood trail, I'd be like, dude, this deer's dead 15 yards into this shit.
Yeah.
We tracked that deer for about 150 yards and lost blood.
What?
So we pulled out. He went back later with some buddies of his and grid searched, and they found that deer. That deer ran 310 yards with a single lung and heart shot with a Montec.
Holy crap.
He sent me pictures of where the shot was. It was entry side, was low lung. It would have been lower lung through the left lung, catching the bottom of the heart, exiting in low armpit on the exit side.
Wow.
Literally, guys like, oh, I shoot for the heart.
Yeah.
Literally, that would have been the dream shot for them. That deer ran 300 yards.
That's insane. But so I have a story to tell you. Kind of the same situation. One of my buddies shot one of his biggest bucks 2 weeks ago with a mega meat. Same thing. Right behind. Now, he aimed a little bit lower. He was aiming for the heart, but he got right behind the elbow. And what was weird about it at the time, the blood trail initially was just terrible, super spotty. And I'd never seen that out of a mega meat ever. Every single time that broadhead enters, I've always seen a dump of blood, and then maybe it might spot out a little bit, but I've never seen it like this. So we call a dog. We track for when did we get? I'd say 2-3 hours, and we're following these dogs. We went over a mile, and what ended up happening was the deer went through it. So it went through all this thick stuff, went into this marsh that's on the other side of the thicket that he was set up in, and it would have died right there because when we found the blood, great blood, all that stuff. But coyotes jumped it, and that obviously made it, run further, and it got eaten up a little bit, whatever. But when we inspected the entrance and exit, it was technically a full pass through, but what the arrow did is it hit where he was aiming, and then somehow, probably because the deer moved, deflected down, came out the chest. And so I don't remember. I think he hit the heart. I'm pretty sure he hit the heart, but because of adrenaline and all that other stuff, that deer was able to run a mile. And it was one of the craziest things I've ever seen because the blood trail is absolutely amazing once we got on it. But we're walking through a mile of woods. I mean, through a marsh, through like a legitimate. I would just call it like a pine thicket where all the pine trees are about 3-4 inches around, and you're getting
Perfect
sticks in
setting.
your eyes, and you're tripping over stuff, and like it was the craziest track I've ever done. And the whole time I keep telling him, like, dude, I don't know if this is a vital hit. I really don't, because it's not. I mean, the blood looks good, but good God, we're half a mile in already. How is he not dead? And I look at it kind of the same way. Is like, even if you're using a fixed blade or a mechanical, whether it's the Montec that probably millions of deer have died to, or the Mega Meat, which opens up like a football size hole in deer sometimes, they can still survive that. And that kind of circles back to like your testing is you're using the stuff that you have and you're doing the best possible test with it. And it really is just going to have to lend to people's confidence in what they're using, because weird
Yep.
things will happen. I mean, I've lost 2 deer now in 2 years. Gut shot my first deer last year with a Mega Meat. Thank God I was using that Broadhead, or else I never would have found her. But even then, like, the weird things do happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, there's never going to be something that's like foolproof.
No,
It's never, even
never.
if you're using the best fixed blade on the planet, you can still have failures with that.
I'll tell you what, if you want to make a foolproof bow hunting situation, the only way to do it is remove the person.
Is with a
As long
what?
as they're remove the person, as
Oh,
long as
remove
they're
the
a human,
person? Yeah.
yeah, as long as there's a human being behind the bow, shit happens.
Yeah.
Well, just like you're talking about, you don't know how it deflected. Well, it's a mechanical. It's got moving pieces. It could have been
Mm-hmm.
as simple as one blade deployed a little later than the other ones,
Yeah.
and that causes it. So, and again, this goes back to there is no perfect solution. A fixed blade, he would not have had that issue. There would have
Yeah.
been no. It would have went straight in line typically, unless it deflects, unless it's a really shitty fixed blade. They generally follow the same path.
Yeah.
But mechanicals, because they have that moving part. I mean, how many? I remember used to piss me off so bad with original rages. Guys would be like, "These are the best things ever," because they took a hard quartering shot, one blade opened and drug down the side of the deer, and it's got a 9-inch gash down the side. And like, look at the giant entry wound. Like
Yeah.
your arrow never entered that deer
Dude, I saw
ever.
that like a week ago on Facebook.
And the reason that pisses me off is because you don't understand what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a really strong believer in knowledge is power,
Yep.
especially when it comes to hunting. So I'm glad you recovered the deer. Yes, that's a gnarly wound, but you need to understand what happened, because next time you may not get so lucky.
Yep.
Next time you could hit this way and a blade opens and it rides the rib down and hits the ground underneath the deer and no penetration happens. And you're going, I made a perfect shot. Why didn't I find the deer? And now rage is the worst thing in the world.
Yep.
So like
Man.
it's all about, like, everything I do is to help people understand. Really, like I said, I believe knowledge is power. It's
Yeah.
confidence and it's knowledge, and that's the two things that I want to instill with every test that I have. Whether the knowledge you gain from it is that you think I'm an idiot and don't know what I'm talking about, or you look at it objectively and just realize that I'm not saying, this is going to kill every animal in the world just by looking at it. I'm just saying it performed better than other broadheads or worse than other broadheads.
Yeah.
So,
So I gotta ask you though, when is that single bevel test video coming out?
slowly but surely. So right now I'm laid up. I've got
I noticed that, man. What happened?
Yeah, so I have a pinched nerve in my elbow and my wrist.
Oh,
It's from work, but I have no feeling in these two fingers, and my grip strength is, depending on the day, anywhere from 50% to 80% of what it normally is. So
jeez.
like I can shoot a bow, but I can't shoot a bow. Like I couldn't go
Yeah.
out back and put in reps, but I can draw and shoot a bow a couple times.
Hmm.
So right now, with me being laid up and it's deer season, so the guys that I would normally have coming over helping me shooting stuff, they're out hunting or they're working. So it's like I'm not taking away time from a dude in a tree stand. So that video is a very slow work in progress.
Gotcha.
I don't have a date for when it's coming out, but I have started working on it because there are things I can do in that video that don't have to be done with a bow. Like
Yeah.
running my machine with the leather and testing sharpness, and then I can film some B-roll and stuff like that for it. So it's a work in progress, but it's not. I don't have a date.
So without saying too much, have you noticed anything that kind of like what happened with the mechanical test that surprised you? Like maybe one you thought would do really good and one that's not?
I think I lost you there for a minute.
Oh, no, I was just asking like if you in that video, without saying too much, if you've noticed anything that's surprising, like how you had the mechanical test video where you thought one head would do really good and it didn't.
Not yet.
Okay.
Something else I'm going to do in this video, and I may not, because that was a 21-minute video with 5 different broadheads. This one only has 3
Oh,
because I
okay.
couldn't find. Like every video is going to have a different amount of broadheads based on what I can find that matches.
Yeah.
This one I've got 3 particular heads, and I'll tell you the heads. It's the Slick Trick SB,
Oh, wow. Okay.
so it's Slick Trick's new single bevel,
Yeah.
the Crimson Talon Cleaver, and I got a thing about doing this for these.
Is it a VPA, Iron Will, Day 6?
No, because they've got that. They all over the single bevel with that kind of
Oh, like
leaf
the yeah. Is it
circular
the
design.
what was that Crimson
It's
Talon you said?
the cleaver,
Cleaver. See, that's what I was thinking of.
the Slick Trick Shift SB.
Oh, is it the Magnus?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
There you
Okay.
go. And the new Magnus.
That's gonna be
So
interesting.
those are the 3 heads in this. And like I said, nothing stuck out. But one thing I think I'm going to do in this is I'm going to run the same test a couple times and
Yeah.
kind of find averages to make sure it's basically keeping me honest, like making sure that I'm not doing anything that's going to skew results.
Hmm.
And again, I may not put that in the whole video because now you're talking a 21-minute video's 40 minutes, and
Yeah.
dude, it's hard enough to get people to watch 21 minutes.
I mean, I'd watch it. See, that's the thing though about broadhead test videos. Is I think it's in a sort of category of its own where you can have because I've watched it has to be hundreds of them at this point. I've watched so many broadhead test videos that if you've got 3 and you're putting them all through a bunch of different tests, it's extremely interesting. If you have 20 and they're all just being put through one specific test or like maybe an accuracy and a durability test, I'll still watch that and I will be glued to that TV. Like, okay, well, because I like the Q80 Exodus. So I'll watch that and be like, all right, what's the Exodus going to do? Has the quality gone down or is it still just as good? If a VPA broadhead is in there, I'll watch it and be like, okay, well, what can I learn from this that I can tell people who listen? And so I think, I mean, I don't, I don't know if a 40-minute video with 3 of them doing the same test that you had, I kind of agree with you on that. But if you have the means to do like a long ass broadhead test video where you're just running them all through the ringer, I guarantee
Yeah,
people watch.
I mean, it'll be the same setup as the 5 as the
Okay.
2-inch mechanicals. It'll run through all the same tests. What I'll probably do though is like I might actually measure penetration depth and ballistics gel this time. I might, whereas I didn't care so much about that.
Yeah.
But as much as ballistic shell is not the best medium for a lot of things, it is a great medium for penetration because it's consistent all the way through.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is, I have found in a lot of my testing that no matter the cut, the whatever, most broadheads penetrate within an inch of each other in ballistics gel.
Hmm. I've noticed that
That's
too in
what
videos.
that's what particularly shocked me about the Beast and the T2 is when I was shooting them into ballistics gel. They penetrated probably 14 and a half. Yeah, not that. Probably 12 or so inches into that ballistic shell. Most broadheads float around 9.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
that particularly surprised me. And you did ask about the T2. I would not hesitate to shoot the T2. I think the T2 is as good as anything Rage has produced.
Gotcha.
And I wasn't shocked to find out the T2 was what it was because of Dudley being behind it and him being a big Rage guy.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen videos where he said, yes, this is similar to other broadheads, but we fixed all the problems that I had with them.
Yeah, I remember watching that video and listening to that episode of the podcast, and I started cracking up. I'm like, bro, just say the name. Like everybody knows. I don't know why you're trying to be all like, secretive about it.
Because
But
he doesn't want to get sued.
yeah, but I mean, if you
live in
can't
that world, dude. Oh yeah, you can.
Really?
Yeah.
If all you say is, yeah, it's very similar to the Rage, but there was things about it I didn't like, so we decided to change it, and I like this version better. You can get sued for that?
He may not directly get sued, but what you could potentially be doing is helping them build a case against G5 for also, dude, lawyers are lawyers. True. Especially corporate lawyers.
Yeah.
So I mean, they could take, because he's got such a platform, they could be like, well, you're defaming the product.
Yeah,
I could see that. Potentially catch a suit. Where if he just goes, it's similar, but I changed some things, then I like this better. There's enough anonymity there that he can go, I was talking about some other broadhead. Like I could be talking about anything. Yeah, I could be talking about anything.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess that's true. So before we move on from that though, and I hate to cut you off, but we missed one broadhead. That B3. What's up with that? Because I saw that design, and the first thing I thought was those blades are going to shear off so fast. And did you see that? Like, is that a thing that happened, or?
No, actually, I was very surprised at how durable it was.
Really?
Yeah. Because I looked at the same thing, and because of the big channels and stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, those blades are going to shear off, and they did end up breaking.
Yeah,
they bent and broke, but they weren't as fragile as I expected them to be. I have to say, of that whole test, the B3RD2 is probably my favorite broadhead.
Wow.
Has less to do with performance. The one thing that was nice is it was pretty consistent across the board.
Yeah.
Like it was never the best, but it was always middle of the pack. It was never like consistency wise. I think it's probably the most consistent broadhead in the test. It was never the best, but it was always never the worst either. The one thing I particularly liked about the RD2 is the way the blades are offset and the ferrule is squared. It penetrates a little bit easier than all the other broadheads did. And you can see that in the leather when I did the leather testing. And I think that has to do with the fact that those blades are offset. So instead of it being two lines with a circle that's trying to punch through, those blades are cutting like individual separate slices, and the square ferrule is able to kind of fold those flaps out of the way and penetrate a lot easier. Also, the only broadhead in the test I saw any rotation in the gel. Wasn't a ton, but I always like rotation in a wound channel. Always.
Yeah.
So I particularly like the RD2. The one thing I will say with the RD2 design is I'm not sure how it would fare on quartering away shots. Because with the rear deploy like a Rage, the problem has always been in a quartering away shot, the blade catches first, pops a blade, and that causes it to tumble.
Mm-hmm.
That has to do with how close those blades are to the tip. Well, in the RD2, I mean, they are right there.
Right there. Yeah. Man, so, okay, you said one thing that I wanted to talk to you about. I didn't mean for this episode to turn nothing but broadheads, but you and I can talk broadheads all day long. So,
absolutely.
Let me think. I think it was my buddy Dylan Ray who runs the Bear Archery podcast. He had one of the guys from Day 6 on there, and they were talking about double bevel versus single bevel and how single bevels really made a resurgence in the past, 4 years, I think, 4 or 5 years.
Give or take. Yeah.
And how they were talking about single bevel, everybody thinks that when it hits its target, it's going to be rotating a lot, or when it hits bone, it's going to rotate a lot. But he was, if I remember right, saying that a double bevel is actually better for penetration because you have two edges that aren't, you're not wasting energy on the spin, and you just have one singular cut. And that's why we have like, I think he was saying something about, it was either scissors, or he said some like household item that is double bevel. Oh, a knife. He was saying when you cut something with a knife, it's not a single bevel, it's a double bevel. And so what's your thoughts on like that? Have you seen anything with your broadhead testing where single bevels maybe don't, because I know that the blade retention most of the time is not as good. I mean, I've experienced that firsthand. So
Yep.
what's your opinion on that? Like, do you think double bevels are better for penetration, or you still think single bevels are where it's at?
So it all comes down to the medium.
Okay.
A double bevel will not perform as well through a hard medium like a shoulder bone.
And that's because of the twist.
That's because of the twist.
Okay.
That rotational energy causes the bone to pop
Mm-hmm.
and allows more room for that arrow and broadhead to go through. Whereas a slice from a double bevel acts almost like a wedge and has to wedge its way through. That's
Sure.
why the Muzzy Trocar bone breaking tips got popular, is because they marketed those to blow bone out of the way and allow easier penetration. Now, I've shot enough stuff with enough Trocar tip things to tell you, for the most part, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that explosive bone like everybody thinks. It would take a much more pronounced trocar tip to really do that.
Okay.
Like the Annihilator,
Yeah.
like that is basically just a giant trocar tip.
Which is why it probably gets really good penetration.
Part of it. It also is because it's a 1-inch cut 3 blade that's tiny.
That thing is pretty small, dude.
Yeah, and I mean,
uh,
I'm not crazy about the Annihilators just because I don't like the 3-blade design, not because there's anything wrong with those broadheads.
yeah.
Honestly, they're probably the most durable broadheads on the market. The 3-blade design doesn't get sharp. Same problem I have with Montex, NAP, Hellraisers, the VPA 3 blades. Anything with that design that's made to lay flat on a stone,
Yeah.
it doesn't get sharp, which, small caveat, because you'll probably see people complaining about this on the comments for your podcast here, but sharp is apparently very subjective. Because I've had a lot of people tell me Montex are really sharp. And I can grab a Montec and do this and squeeze with everything I got and never cut my hand.
Yeah.
Sharp to me is I'm afraid to touch it. G5 broadheads, replaceable blade broadheads, are consistently the most sharp broadheads I've ever used out of the package.
I have
Period.
literally sliced my finger open multiple times from changing Mega Meat blades, pulling them out of,
Yep.
like, just even trying to close them.
Yep.
And I mean, one time I did it, I thought I was going to need stitches. I just got some of that new skin glue stuff, pushed it together, sprayed the crap out of it, and it was fine. But
Yep.
yeah, those suckers are sharp, dude. I mean,
The replaceable blade broadheads,
yes,
but the Montec's
yes.
trash. So that's just a really small caveat there.
Yeah.
But back to the original. With a single bevel, when you hit bone, it's going to split the bone and help move it out of the way, which is going to allow penetration better for the arrow.
Mhm.
Whereas a 2 blade is going to try to cut through and almost act like a wedge. And that doesn't open up room for the arrow as well. Because again, like I was saying earlier, everything's fluid. Like those bones and muscles are going to close back on that arrow.
Yeah.
That's where that single bevel is nice, because it pops the bone in a way that it can't really close back on that arrow. So that's going to aid in your penetration. Now, you do waste some energy with a single bevel going through soft tissue. The amount of energy you waste is about as much energy as the difference between 3 feet a second. Like it's negligible.
Yeah.
It's negligible at best. So if you're talking like, if you're getting into semantics, yeah, absolutely. A double bevel is going to penetrate better through soft tissue. And like ribs, I don't consider rib to be serious bone.
Yeah.
Any broadhead should be able to go through a rib. So it's probably going to do better through like a whitetail rib also. Where the single bevel is, to take away from Ranch Fairy, a plan B broadhead, is when you shoot them in the shoulder, it's going to penetrate better. Period. Because it pops that bone open and allows for a better pathway for the arrow. I think a lot of people don't think about this, but when you shoot an animal with a broadhead, the broadhead is what does the killing. But if you're talking pass-throughs, the broadhead is what's blazing the trail for the rest of the arrow to get through.
Yeah.
So you want that to move the hardest material to go through out of the way as much as possible. So again, in a heavy shoulder blade, a single bevel is going to out penetrate. As far as his comment, like why do we use double bevel knives? Because they're easier. Japanese chefs use single bevel knives for specific things, such as cutting very thin slices of meat.
Really?
Yes,
I did not know that.
there's a Japanese chef knife, and there's a particular name for it. I can't remember, but it's a single bevel knife.
Huh.
So it's not that they're not in use. Also, the other thing is with a single bevel, if you try to cut with a single bevel knife, I have one. What happens is they tend to they cut at an angle.
Yep.
They don't cut straight down, which is another reason we use double bevel knives because of equal pressure on both sides. So that would be my response to that. It's basically it just depends on the medium you're shooting through, and the knife analogy is a poor one at best.
So what you're saying is I should have shot that doe in the shoulder, and I probably would have. I probably would have recovered her.
Oh boy.
Maybe.
So without diving into anatomy too much, unless you're very high in a tree, shooting a deer in the shoulder when it's standing there is an awful thing because you're not in any vitals. And I know you know that, but
yeah, I've done it, and it you know the story. I'm pretty sure I told you it last year, and it sucked. So that's
If you're hunting from a ground blind and you say I shoulder shot that deer, congratulations. Unless you hit it in the spine, you got into nothing lethal.
Yeah. Well, that doe that I shot last year that I lost, she survived, and she was in front of me. I've been watching her all year. She was in front of me at 15 yards. The same day that I shot this other doe that I couldn't recover. And dude, I was going to shoot her again. And as I was going, like, had my bow in my hand, was clipped on, was about to lift up to draw back as soon as she took 2 more steps. And then my my sister-in-law's family and all that were at the house because it's like I was set up pretty much 20 yards from the driveway.
Yeah.
Her husband's sister was leaving, and of course the doe saw that, spooked, and it didn't work out. But I was trying, man. I looked at her, I was like, all right, Scar, today is your day. And then it didn't work out. But you could see, and that's what was crazy is so when I shot her, it was with an Exodus. And it was also with a different arrow brand that I'm using now, and kind of going into that little secretive stuff. But the arrow broke, and there's no two ways about it, because when I shot that doe, granted, I may have pulled the shot a little bit or did something, but my pin was right where it needed to be. And it was quartered away. It wasn't hard quarter, but it was quartered away. And dude, as soon as that arrow hit her, you could hear like a loud crack. And my first thought was, okay, I just either broke her shoulder because the arrow was stuck in her, or that arrow just broke and she's not going to die. And it was the same thing. The blood was terrible. Never found her. And 3 weeks later, this doe shows up with a giant scar on her shoulder. And I'm like, okay, there we go. I guarantee that broadhead's still in her, which I hate, because when she walks, she's got a limp to her. And I see it and I'm just like, God, I'm so sorry. Like, I feel terrible.
It's a testament to how tough those animals are, dude.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane.
It's been quite a while ago, but I had a trail cam picture of the longest time of a doe that her right hind corner had been chewed up or eaten off by something, and she was still up moving around doing everything.
Wow. Have you ever seen that video of the deer, the buck that has I'm not going to say it was a rage, but it was a 2-blade mechanical for sure. Where he should be dead. Like, you can see through him, and it's in the vital area. And I'm just like, how? And
you're insane.
And it makes me think, like you were talking about anatomy and how soft everything is. I almost wonder if, and I don't see how this could be if the blades were dull, but maybe there was enough force behind that arrow that it was able to get through the hide, and then the blades must have maybe closed or been open and it slid off the organ. Or maybe it was a small cut and it wasn't lethal. You know, it's some of the stuff that happens bow hunting is mind blowing, and I don't understand any of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes you can't explain it. Well, it's like my hate for original rages comes from 2 things. One, I skipped one off the squirrel's head and watched the squirrel run up the tree and bark at me.
Wow.
15 yards away, I shot the squirrel, skipped it right off the squirrel dome. Arrow went flying into oblivion. Squirrel runs up the tree and just starts barking at me like nothing happened. And I'm positive I hit the squirrel because he reacted.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those things where I shot him and he was like, "Oh shit!" And he kind
Dazed.
of, yeah, ran
Dang.
up the tree and started barking at me. And then I also shot a doe in the ribs, and it one blade opened and it ran down the rib and stuck in the ground underneath of it. Like that, I brought that up earlier. I've watched that happen.
Yeah. Dude, that's insane.
So there's just so many things can happen. Like another example is the amount of guys that I know that it's their kids' first year bow hunting, and they're pulling 40 pounds and 26 inches, and they have them shooting a 2-inch range. That leads to a lot of deer never being recovered.
I was
You have
that
to get
guy.
7 inches of penetration to collapse to get through one side of a deer into its other lung.
Mhm.
Only takes 7 inches of penetration. But when you're shooting a 40-pound bow, and most guys don't have their kids starting out with a good bow because they don't know
Yeah.
if they're going to spend a lot of. So 26 inches, 40-pound bow that IBO speed all max out is 300 feet a second. And you're shooting the lightest arrow you can, so your kid's pen cap isn't so insane that they don't have a chance.
Yeah.
And you got these kids throwing a 2-inch range at 25 yards at a deer. I mean, dude, I
Dude,
shoot
I get it. I mean, I
28
didn't shoot
inches,
a deer
70
like that,
pounds.
but no, I was so my first bow went because I knew nothing about it. When I got it set up, I took it to a shop and the guy had it set to 40 pounds, 28-inch draw. My arrows were sub 350. I didn't know any of that. I'm thinking
Yeah.
it's great hunting rig. I'm thinking I'm pulling 50 pounds. Like, and it was the same thing, mechanical. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, the biggest cut. And I bought the Rage. They don't make it anymore, but it was the Rage cut on contact, no collar. That yellow broadhead
Yep.
they used to make.
The extreme.
The extreme, yeah, 2.3. And my dumbass
Yep.
was out there in my ground blind with my bow, with that arrow setup, with that broadhead, thinking that when this 140 or 150-inch buck I had on camera was showing up, that it was done, right? And I thank God every time I'm in the tree that I never shot anything with that. Because now knowing what I know, dude, I may have ended up quitting, honestly. Like,
Well, and the crazy thing is, you could have got lucky and shot a deer between the ribs, got all soft stuff, had the
yeah,
penetration, killed the deer dead, and you could also shot a deer in the ribs and gotten zero penetration.
yeah, it
Like
could have bounced off.
that's bow hunting, dude.
Yep.
But the amount of people that go out and wound deer under those circumstances, or the kid goes out and wounds a deer, and then like you said, you might have quit.
Yeah.
How does that feel to the kid?
Oh, yeah.
Their first deer ever, and it's supposed to be the most exciting thing in the world, and they can't find it.
Yep.
Like,
It's a hard lesson. I mean, one of my buddy's little brothers is actually in the exact boat you're talking about. 26-inch draw. I think he's shooting 60 pounds, so that's better. But
yep.
his arrow is sub 400. And I'm sending him out some arrows that are probably about 500 grains because I'm like, bro, you need some weight behind that. Get you a fixed blade. The blood trail might not be great, but get a fixed blade, shoot these arrows, tune it, learn it like I did.
Tell him to shoot in the lungs, and he'll be
Yeah.
fine.
And
That's the biggest thing too, man. Like, to go back to the reason I brought up the Montec and the 300-yard track job on a heart shot, and then kind of anatomy is like, people just need to learn to shoot for double lung shots.
yeah.
If you clip the heart, great, but if you pop both those lungs, that deer is not running 300 yards. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a guy that says, "Well, I've double lung deer before and had him run 500 yards." To me, bow hunting is all about numbers.
Yeah.
And especially when I'm giving advice to people, I try to look at it from a numbers perspective. Like, I've had people argue with me about the 2-inch range and the 40-pound draw. My daughter's killed 7 deer that way. Congratulations to your daughter.
Yeah.
Your daughter is the one in a million. If you're not full of shit.
Yeah.
If you're not just full of shit because you feel like arguing. But if you aren't, your daughter is the one in a million. And I can't sit here and give 1 in a million advice to 999,999 other people.
Yeah.
So, I look at bow hunting as numbers. And
Well,
statistically speaking, you're going to have better success when you're a small person with a fixed blade. Statistically speaking, you're going to have better success in shorter tracking jobs, double lunging deer.
yeah. Well, and that's how I'm looking at this whole situation I'm in right now is like every single deer I've ever shot with mechanical, whether Rage or mega meat or anything like that, I've recovered it. Even if it was a bad shot, I've recovered it. Every deer I've shot with a fixed blade, I've recovered one. And that's not knocking fixed blades. It's probably, because I do know with a fixed blade, you've got to be on target. Like you have to make a good shot. And, maybe that's just a mark on me. Maybe I need to practice more, get better,
Are you a guy that tends to shoot a little further back on deer?
All right. So I'll explain how I look at it. I came up, obviously I've only been hunting for 5 or 6 years, right? But was always into it. You know the story. Played deer hunter when I was a kid, all that stuff. Shotgun my entire life, right? So my first time out, and playing the games and talking to people that have hunted and watching videos and all this other stuff, I would put it center mass behind the shoulder, right? Well, when I got into archery, I had done that a couple times and it had worked, but I was using mechanical. Well, now, being further along in it and stuff, I tend to go basically where the elbow starts, so where the belly and elbow meet. And I try to do maybe 3 inches up and like an inch behind the shoulder is where I want to be. Doesn't mean I hit that every time, but that's where I'm aiming at. So I would say that's probably heart and double lung, right? Or close to it.
Sure. Yeah.
So again, that's what I aim for, but apparently that's not where I'm hitting. So
well, and the reason I ask is I get guys that'll be like, "What broadhead do you recommend?"
Yeah.
And then I'm like, "Well, the question after that is always, what bow, what arrow, what's your draw length, what's your draw weight?" So I'll get a guy that's like, "Oh, 80 pounds, 29 inches, 500 grain arrow," and I'm like, "Well, you can pick any broadhead you want." So the next question after that is, do you tend to hug the shoulder or do you tend to shoot a little further back? And if you tell me you tend to shoot a little further back, I'm going to tell you to pick up the biggest cut mechanical you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
Go pick up a Mega Meat. Go pick up a Grim Reaper Whitetail Special. Go pick up a Rage Tripan with a 2.2 inch cut or whatever. Go pick up a big mechanical. But if you tell me you hug the shoulder, I'm going to tell you to get a fixed blade and particularly get a single bevel.
Yeah. I think so. I'm able to get my bow tuned to both. And so I think when I don't rush the shot and I actually think it through and have time to, not just, draw back and shoot, I will usually stay, like when I shot that doe last year with the Omega, right behind the shoulder, like as close as I could without going to it, right? And like I said, she died 60 yards away within 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes. This past Saturday, I would like to say I was, behind the shoulder, maybe center mass, maybe a little high, but I really couldn't tell you. I don't know because it all happened so fast that I feel like I blacked out, which has never happened before. Right. So yeah, I mean, my intention, like I said, is always as close to the shoulder as I can, but also if I were to pull the shot, I'm still going to be in lungs. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, like I said, 2 or 3 inches above the elbow, 1 or 2 inches behind. And that's kind of the area I, aim for. Like shooting 3D, that's where I'm aiming for. I'm not looking for the dots. I don't care about the score. I'm looking at a kill shot. So that's why I think either one could work. I mean, I've used both. They both have worked. It's just, I'm more worried about where I'm at. And if, say, I don't see the thing fall, I need a good blood trail because I'm having to, knock on doors and say, hey, I shot a deer. I think it died on your property. Can I come check? I need to be able to show like, okay, here's the blood trail. This is where it's coming through. I'd love for it to just fall, but
sure.
You know what I mean? But wouldn't we all?
So. Well, and yeah, I mean, so we're going back to numbers, right? Statistically speaking, the bigger the hole, the better the blood trail. So if you want a blood trail, you should shoot a mechanical.
Yeah.
This isn't particular to you. This is kind of a general statement. Just don't be mad when you hit them in the shoulder and you don't get any penetration. You know what I mean? Like you said, there is no perfect solution. It doesn't exist.
When you got to know what you're going to get,
Yep.
I know shooting a fixed blade, the blood trail is going to be not as good, but it could potentially be faster. And if you shoot mechanical, the blood trail is going to be great, but you could also hit heavy bone and have it fail. So I don't know, man. But look, we've been. Can you hear me?
There you are.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on with that, man. That's the second time that's happened.
It's my headphones this time.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, we've been talking broadheads for almost an hour and a half, and
Sounds
it's
about
been a
right.
lot of fun. But I want to hear more about, before we wrap this up, I want to hear more about what you've got coming this season and what we can expect to see from Chest Thumper. Um, do you still have the website?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. So, what hunts are you going on this year?
Nothing.
Nothing.
The only thing I have is just is home stuff, just because I don't know how this is all going to shake out. I go and see my orthopedic surgeon Monday to find out if I'm going to need surgery to fix it. If I get surgery, I'm not going to be able to lift anything heavier than a pencil with that arm for however long it takes to heal.
Oh my God.
So that changes the ball game quite a bit for me.
You know who you need to call? Remy Warren.
Mouth tab.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've already the bow. I've been out hunting a couple times. I've not drawn the bow. I've not shot at anything.
Mhm.
But it's a 60-pound bow versus a 70 that I shoot. I'm borrowing it from a buddy, and I've been thinking about it. I think I could get a 60-pound bow back with a mouth tab.
I
I
mean,
think particularly with this bow, I could get it done.
so how does that even work?
Uh, my understanding from watching Remy videos,
Yeah.
I love Remy Warren. He's one of my
Oh
favorite
yeah.
guys. From watching his videos, you basically build. I don't remember exactly what he said he used, but he basically just built uh, a a tape type structure tab thing that he could bite onto, and it goes under your
Hmm.
D loop, and
And then you just
basically
open
you're
your mouth and
drawing. Yeah, and then you're letting go with your mouth to get it to shoot.
huh. That's wild. So no
Yeah.
crossbows? No crossbows in the future?
If I have to go that route, yeah. I mean, not that I have anything against crossbows necessarily. I prefer bow hunting.
Yeah. Well,
So I have
you're
a
not
buddy who's already offered to lend me a crossbow.
yeah. And I mean,
So
that's the thing, like, Dustin Huff, he killed that giant with a crossbow and he has a good
yep.
reason. Everybody wants to give him crap. I mean, the dude's got a legitimate medical reason why he has to use it. And
Yeah.
I've always said, like, I have no problem with someone using one as long as it's a medical reason or you're elderly, like that to me. And again, I've got buddies that shoot crossbows and they're perfectly healthy. They're younger than
Mm-hmm.
me and they
Mm-hmm.
just don't want to shoot a compound. Okay, cool. I mean, I think you'll have more fun, but hey,
Yeah.
do your thing.
I
Um,
have I have mixed feelings, man. Like, I'm very much pro whatever gets somebody in the woods.
yeah,
I will always be that guy that says if it's what gets you in the woods, then by all means, because we need more people in the woods, more people that care about hunting. Uh, I do kind of feel like you're cheating, though, if you are a perfectly able bodied person. The flip side of that coin is I know a lot of people that would never spend the time it takes to be proficient with a bow, but will spend the half dozen shots it takes to sight in a crossbow and take it out in
yeah,
the woods. And I would much rather that person take something in the woods they can be proficient with and lethal with versus them take a compound in the woods and wound everything that walks by them.
yeah. I mean, there is no argument, and I've probably had this argument a few times on the podcast, but comparing a crossbow to a compound or definitely even a trad bow,
Not
crossbow is
even the same
way
ballpark.
more lethal. There is no comparison. But
It's what I don't know that it's more lethal as much as it is easier to be lethal with.
yeah, yeah. But see, I like the challenge, which is why, I've had talks with my uncle in Colorado about going out there and hunting. And he's like, "Oh
Yep.
man, you're gonna bring your 308?" I'm like, "No, I'm bringing the bow,
No.
dude. If I
Yep.
go, I'm bringing the bow. I'm not. I don't want to shoot an animal 800 yards away that did not know I was even anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And I don't judge it.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I don't judge it. I got buddies that rifle hunt. I know muzzle loaders coming in this weekend, so a lot of my friends are getting ready for that, and I'm just like, have fun, dude. If I can get that
Yeah.
deer within 20 yards, hey, I'm happy.
So I'm going to give you some ideas just to mull around in your head because I'm like you. I like the challenge. I like the bow hunting. I like the animal being close. I also want to capitalize on being in the woods as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we have a muzzleloader season also. I'm thinking that I'm going to buy a traditions, like old school flintlock style muzzleloader,
Like a musket.
cap and ball.
That's
Because
awesome.
you start limiting your range to 60, 70 yards.
Yeah.
to take that a step further, I considered skipping the rifle altogether and going to black powder pistol.
Oh, wow.
Because now you're limiting your range to like 40 yards.
Yeah. Holy
So now
crap.
you're like in bow hunt territory.
I didn't even know they still
And
made those.
yeah, dude, you can get black powder pistols for like $300.
What?
Yeah, they're not crazy expensive.
Huh.
So if you like, and I don't know, you guys might be able to bow hunt during muzzleloader. We can here, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
can't bow. We can't bow hunt during gun season unless we're on private.
Well,
So on public, if we draw a gun tag, you have to gun hunt.
yeah,
But
here
you can
it's
also use a
pretty open.
muzzle loader. Yeah. Yeah. You guys typically have better laws than we do.
Yeah.
But
America.
yeah, exactly. But we can muzzle loader hunt during our gun season. So I could potentially get even just a regular pistol, like
Yeah.
even like a 40, 44 mag. You're still limiting yourself to 40, 50 yards,
Yeah.
especially if you use iron sights. So then I can do something that's a little bit more challenging, still getting in the bow hunting realm,
Yeah.
but be able to extend my season by 7 more days. So
Dude,
those are some things I've thought about.
I can't even imagine hunting with a pistol. I've seen one
It'd be-
video of a guy who killed a giant 10 point with one, and I'm just like, that's a whole nother level of challenge. Like, you might as well give me a trad bow that I've never shot and been like, hey, go for it. Because
I
there's no
I
way.
got a I have a buddy here who pistol hunts. That's like his favorite thing in the world to do. He's got two different pistols. It's like a 460. I don't know. It's a higher powered pistol, 416, 460 something. It's like right under the 500 Smith & Wesson.
Yeah.
But he has one that's got a 14-inch barrel that's got a bipod on it and a scope. He's got a video on YouTube of him killing a pronghorn at 327 yards with it.
Holy
So
crap.
that's like a rifle, but it's a pistol.
Yeah.
But then he's got like a shorter 8-inch barreled version of that he uses. He killed a black bear in Washington with it this year, actually.
Dude, that's the most gangster thing. Just
He's a beast.
I'm just picturing somebody in full camo with like a Glock 19 sitting in a tree stand, and this bear comes walking out, and they just hold it sideways like, surprise, motherfucker. And just it's done.
Yeah, his is more like a big old revolver that you better two-hander. It's going to tear your arm off.
Okay, that's more of a manly man style gun, I guess. That's
yeah, and I mean the one with the 14-inch barrel is the same thing. It's that same caliber. It's a big old revolver. Wow. But 327 yards with a pistol.
That's insane.
Technically a pistol, but it's got a longer barrel on it than some rifles do. So
yeah, that's a high point carbine. That's not a pistol.
At that point, you're with a really big bullet.
That's insane.
Yeah,
well, what else is coming down the line, man? Like, what other kind of videos are you planning on doing? I know with the injury, it's kind of, holding you back a little bit, but
yeah.
What else are you trying to do?
Here lately, my big focus is trying to get that single bevel video done. That 2-inch mechanical video did like astoundingly well on both YouTube and TikTok. Like I think it's almost got 50,000 views on YouTube. It's coming up to be, it's like my third most viewed video ever.
Well, Broadhead videos in general, man, I feel like if you're and I'm not saying you're a smaller guy, because I mean you've been around enough, like you've got a footprint on the industry, right?
Yeah, but I am a smaller guy, right? Like I've got, I want to say just over 6,000 subscribers on YouTube, like just under 5,000 on Instagram. My biggest platform is TikTok, and it's like 55,000. So I'm not a big creator by any stretch.
But I only have 200 subscribers on YouTube. So in my opinion, I think you know what I'm saying? I know. I like the humility. I'm giving you credit here. But those types of Broadhead test videos, man, they always seem to do well. Even ones where it's like someone's iPhone. If they have a medium, hell, you could get 10 water jugs, fill it with water, shoot anything you want through it, and you're still going to get, I'm guessing, you'd probably get like 5,000-10,000 views, because people are just going to look up Broadhead test video. And it may be the worst test ever, but people are still going to see it.
Yeah. And if you look at the comments, a lot of videos like that, it's just people shitting on the test, which is fine because you're still getting the views. And like, there's two perspectives for a creator. It's like, oh, I still got my views, I'm still getting paid.
Yeah.
Or my perspective is I'm just putting out trash to make money, and that's bullshit.
Yep.
I won't do that. And you're right. Like I could make a broadhead, dude. If you go back, I've been doing YouTube. I think this is 11 years now.
Yeah, I would say it's been a while.
I've only been taking it serious for the past 3. But like you can go back and look at my old videos. I've got videos that are awful, dude.
I've
Just
seen them.
awful
I've
from
seen
way
them.
back in the day.
Hey, so do I, dude. I have a recovery video from when I killed Pickles 2 years ago, and all it is me walking like, guys, I can't even talk, and all I get out is I just killed him, and then it switches. I made it on like some iMovie app,
Yep.
right? And then it just like pans over, and you see me stumbling through the woods, and you see him off in the thing, and then next it pans again, and the next thing is he's dead right there, and then I turn around and I was like, and then that's it. It's a 2 minute video.
Yep.
Like it,
Yes.
but again, you've been in it. Like you've gone from that to making high quality videos. And I think that if people clearly people have noticed that because the viewership's going up, you're able to do better testing. And I think that is one thing that is going to set you apart, like kind of get you in the Lusk territory of broadhead testing. If you want to, if that's like a goal,
Mhm.
is his stuff is extremely consistent. He is improving every year, but it's always consistent. And your stuff's the same way. It's just, I think that you kind of put things, how can I put it? You put it into a more realistic perspective rather than I'm going to shoot, MDF and steel and cinder blocks. And I'm not knocking him because I love his videos. But I can't look at that and say, okay, well, it made it through a steel plate 3 times, fell apart in the MDF, only got 7 inches of penetration on the penetration test, but then it shoots a cinder block and it just bounces off and it's perfectly fine. Like, what do I get from that? You know?
Yeah, and I think so. Like upcoming for me, I want to do more of the comparison videos. I like that style.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think ultimately I'm probably going to go away, and this is not an immediate thing, but I think ultimately I'm going to go away from the single broadhead videos just because they're not as much fun for me as they used to be. To be honest with you, I've gotten to the point where there it goes. To be honest with you, I've gotten to the point where it's like I can look at a broadhead design and have a very, very close idea of how it's going to perform. Like there's
Yep.
no shock factor. But in videos where I'm comparing broadheads head to head, that's a whole new, like unknown. To me, that's exciting. That's fun. And it's bringing a perspective that you're not seeing really anywhere else on YouTube. Like you said, you'll get a guy that does a video and it's one test for 20 different heads. But the problem is there's those 20 different heads have nothing in common.
Yeah.
Like you're not gaining any real information.
Yeah.
Of course, the QAD Exodus with an inch and 3/16 cutting
Yeah.
is going to out penetrate the 2-inch mechanical.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't help anybody with anything.
I mean, it's
So,
even like comparing that broadhead to like a dead meat. They're never going to have the same penetration. Very close
well,
cutting diameter, but
it's never going to happen because it's
yeah.
mechanical and it takes away energy. Well, it's like I had guys on that 2-inch mechanical video like, well, you got to do the dead meat. You got to put a mega meat in there. No, dude, because you're not. That doesn't give you anything.
Yeah. They just want to see it,
They just want to see it,
which I'm guilty of. I'm very guilty of that.
And I get it, and I get it.
Yeah.
But
When I
that's
saw
not
that
what I'm
video and I
shooting
saw
for.
G5, I was like, oh, great. He's going to put the beast against the mega meat. And then it was the T2. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm still going to watch it, but I'd really
Yeah,
like to see this. But I get why you did it because you're getting broadheads that are comparable. And you could do a broadhead video. And I was actually going to suggest this, which I'm sure you've thought of it. But you could do, once you're done with the single bevel stuff, you can go to a different type of single bevel. Then you can do a double bevel. Then you can do 3-blade mechanical. You can do 4-blade, then 4-blade mechanical, then hybrid, and just all these different things.
I've already started collecting the broadheads for the 4-blade video.
See, there you go.
So here's the thing though, like it's not as easy as just picking 4 blades because I want same weight, I want same cutting diameter, similar design. What I'm really trying to compare now is quality of the broadhead itself. And in order to compare quality A to B, you have to have all the other things as close as possible. The
True.
reason the single bevel video coming up only has 3 broadheads is because I could only find 3 with that shape and 150 grains.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 that I found. Those are the 3 that I'm doing. Right now, my 4-blade video, I'm doing big cut 4 blades. Well, So like a standard 4 blade is usually inch and eighth.
Yeah.
These are all inch and 3/16 or inch and a quarter or better.
Who makes that?
The G5 Striker X is inch and 3/16.
Oh, I forgot about that
The
broadhead.
Slick Trick Grizz Trick is inch and a quarter,
Okay.
which you're talking a 16th of an inch is not
Yeah.
super significant. The Tooth of the Arrow XL is inch and 3/16,
Okay.
and those are the only 4 blades that I've found. Oh, and then it's True Glow.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
No, sorry, NAP
Oh, okay.
NAP quad cutters are inch and 3/16.
What? Is that a new
Yeah,
broadhead?
yeah. So basically,
Okay.
what happened is another company, True Glow, invented it, brought it out. NAP bought it and repackaged it with their name.
Hmm.
Like if
So
you
I'm
look
kind
at
of
all
like,
the Broadheads NAP released last year, that every single one of them were True Glow
yeah.
releases the previous year, which
Okay.
pisses me off because NAP used to be a company that made amazing products that were new and different on the market every year. And then they were bought out by an investment company who is buying everything as cheap as possible from China, putting NAP's name on it and trying to put profits through the roof.
And that's why I'm not
Pisses
shooting
me off.
them. That's why I won't touch them.
It's so sad to me. Like the Kill Zone was a bitch slap to rage, and it was way better back in the day. And
Hmm.
now you couldn't catch me putting a Kill Zone in the end of my arrow.
Yeah. I saw in a Seek
Uh,
One video a kill zone fell apart in their hands without even shooting it. And I'm like, nope. I wrote it off
yeah,
before they ever even tested it. I'm like, I don't trust that. I
the
will not
only
trust
NAP broadhead I would ever even think about shooting an animal is the Spitfire.
that's a 3 blade, right?
That is their 3 blade. It is one of the first 3 blades ever.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's tried and true history of being a killer, and that's the only one I would ever consider shooting an animal
that's so
ever.
crazy. Well, and that's what makes me
Cons-
wonder, like, some of these companies you'll see, they have, and the big names, obviously, like, Rage, G5, Grim Reaper, all those guys. They, I don't think they'll ever be bought out like that. Or at least if they are, then so they must have come out with some broadhead that just sucks and their, stock goes way down. But they always make a good product. But then you see other companies that do get bought out and the quality of that product goes completely downhill. And it's like,
the
it,
problem is, so like Rage, for example, is owned by Faradyne.
mm-hmm,
Faradyne is on the smaller side of like sporting goods conglomerates,
mm-hmm,
hunting industry conglomerates. The one thing I'll give people credit for at Faradyne, um, at least from what I've seen, is most of them are also passionate outdoorsmen and women in some capacity.
yeah,
If they aren't, they at least have the understanding. Like the quality I've seen in the Trypan and the Nocturnals and stuff like that, especially in the past, say, 5 years, or Rage in general, it shows me like they actually give a shit. They're not just trying to protect their bottom dollar. The
yeah,
problem is companies coming from outside the industry that don't care about how much we all love it, how much we all love to hunt. All they care about is the bottom dollar.
mm-hmm,
And they're coming in and buying these companies as investments to either A, dismantle them, or B, cut costs as much as humanly possible to make as much money as possible. They're basically ripping the heart out of most of these companies.
yeah.
Like
Why would they
the
want to
people that
dismantle one of those companies?
money, right? They can make money doing that.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Huh. I
Well, you
did not know.
figure, let's say you come in and buy a company that produces its own stuff, dismantle the company, sell the building, sell all the machinery, rent the building out to somebody else, take the building and use it for something that you need it for instead that makes more money.
I could see that.
That's not super common. Like that's not, but
Yeah,
it is definitely.
something that
Or
happens.
if you're a large investment conglomerate that got nailed with taxes last year and you need something that loses money, this is a great industry to be your money sink because you do not get in this industry to become a millionaire.
Yeah. I,
I'm
I
going to
forget
tell you.
someone who said that. They're like, if you want to get in the industry and become a millionaire, start off with 2 million. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's great.
100%. Dude, I'm in process, and this is another part of what's coming soon. Like here lately, I've been trying to ramp up the amount of product I keep on hand in my stock because next year I'd like to open an archery shop and do
Yeah.
that full time. I will probably make less money owning my own archery shop and running it, or sporting goods store, because I want to do a full blown sporting goods store, than I will working in a regular 9 to 5 good full time job.
That's crazy. Is it just the returns? Like it's the cost of the product and then
Oh, dude,
sell it for?
without getting really, really deep into the weeds,
Yeah.
good margins, like standard margins in this industry are 30 points, 30%.
Wow.
That's nothing. Like that is very
Yeah.
low.
That's really low.
Like those are low enough margins that Walmart would scoff at you if you offered them that on most
Wow.
products they carry. Now, Walmart is obviously an extreme, but like
Yeah.
it's very hard to keep the lights on, pay the rent, pay yourself, pay employees, and all the costs that come with employees, because you basically take an employee's salary and double it, and that gives you roundabout what it costs to actually have that employee.
Jeez.
It's very hard to do that when you're making 30%.
Yeah.
The other downside to a sporting goods store / archery shop is I can't just carry a few things and a lot of those few things and get away with it.
Yeah.
Like you as a consumer expect me as an archery shop to have the new bow that comes out every year on my shelf, and I better have more than a couple, because you know, what if I sell two and you came in to buy the third and I don't have it? Now you're going somewhere else. So not only do I have all the overhead and other things, I have massive amounts of overhead and products that I have to keep on the shelf. Bows are the number one detriment to an archery shop.
Really?
They're the most expensive thing you put in the shop, and they sell the
That's
least.
true. That's true. Which is
They
crazy
also
because, I had,
typically have the lowest margins.
when I had Dylan, and okay, so we're kind of shifting gears a little bit here, and I'm glad we're doing it because it brought up something I didn't think we'd talk about. When Dylan came on here, he told me how much Bear made last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's public knowledge or not, so I'm not going to throw a number out, but it was a lot. And you and I both know Bear, at least based off of how people seem to be buying them, like I shoot a Bear. I think it's the best bow I've ever shot. It's only a $600 bow. And I've shot
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of the flagships from this year. And I'm like, why would anybody spend, double what I paid for something that either shoots as good or not as good? Right. And I think, like, using Bear as an example, they've sort of figured out that, okay, we can make bows that are good, but aren't breaking the bank. Do you think that's something that these companies need to start doing, and not selling bows that are $2,000 that, almost no one's going to buy unless they save every single penny? Because then I see, like, in the shop, it could not really save the shop, but make it more profitable, where you're getting the bow at cost, you sell it for a certain price, it's lower. So more people are seeing that and they're like, oh, this thing shoots great. Why would I ever, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would I go spend double this?
Okay, we're gonna get really deep into the weeds real
Yeah,
quick.
because
So
I'm just trying to understand it.
yeah, so there's a lot to this. One thing is most of Bear's like budget line, my understanding is made overseas. That may not be true, but my understanding is at least the vast majority of the components, the risers, the cams, are made overseas, even if they're assembled here. So that's going to cut down costs hugely,
True.
which allows Bear to put out a budget bow. Before I get really deep into this, I've said it for the past 2 years. I'll continue to say it, and I guarantee it'll be true. Bear will be the number one selling bow company and at the top of the food chain in the next 5 years.
Oh, I believe it.
They will be
What they're
bigger
doing
than
is insane.
Matthews. They will be bigger than Matthews. They will be bigger than Hoyt. They will be bigger than everybody that ever could be, because they do three things really well. One, they market extremely well.
Yeah.
Them picking up THP was the best thing they ever could have done, because so many people like THP because they go, those guys are just like me. They're out there grinding on public land.
I was watching before we got on here.
Yeah, I love
watch
THP.
them all the time.
They're some of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet too, if you've ever met them. They're freaking awesome.
I haven't yet. I'm working.
Highly recommend if you ever get a chance. Very good people. Two, well, to piggyback on the marketing, they have the tack truck every year. Like, they took over the tack truck.
Yep.
So not only are they hitting the everyday guy, now they're hitting the tack crew, which typically tend to be the guys that are spending $2,000 on a bow.
Oh yeah.
So they're hitting both spectrums, right? Two, they are easily the best selling budget bow on the market. No, like, they're probably the best and second best selling budget oil in the market. There's nobody even in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
There's nobody can touch them. And a lot of companies have stopped trying.
Oh yeah, I've noticed it. I said it earlier when me and Dylan were talking about it. I'm like, dude, Bear seems like the only one that has bows ranging from I think 450 to 1200 bucks. And all of them because I've shot a good number of them. I shot their flagship last year. I'm shooting the Whitetail Max. I shot the Alaskan. I mean, even the Paradox a couple years ago. I shot that. It was a great bow. And dude, brand new, it was only like 600 bucks or probably less than that. And I agree. Like they are covering the budget bow market completely. Like I'd say they're probably 95% of the entire budget bow market, if not more.
Yep.
So you're 100%.
Yeah, easily 95%, if
Yeah.
not more. And the third thing Bear is doing really well is they're making themselves accessible to the everyday guy. Like you said, you're talking to the dude, you're friends with the guy that runs their podcast.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people that work at Bear on forums on Facebook commenting and talking with people.
Mm-hmm.
And not being a dick, just having conversation. Like there's accessibility. And the one thing about this industry that has always been a huge black eye, in my opinion, is that we're all like everybody in the industry is hush hush. Oh, yeah. We're in the industry. Like, so it's nice to be us. Sucks to be those guys that aren't in there.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I think the ATA show is dying.
Yeah. I've been saying for years that I wish they would make it public because I want to go. And just because I'd get to see, I'd get to see Waddell in person and actually hang out with him and like the guys from Working Class and the Seek One dudes, which those guys, I mean, I'm not going to go on that tangent, but they're around here all the time. Like they live an hour away from me. There's so many opportunities. It's just this weekend they're having an event. I'm going out of town Saturday afternoon. I always seem to miss it, but it's, to that point, it's the guys that make themselves, I'm not going to say accessible, easily contactable, right? Like, yeah, exactly. Humans. Like if I wanted to
humanize themselves.
Yeah. Like if I wanted to, I'll just say this. I've reached out to a few bow companies, right? And just wanted them to come on for a podcast. And I have not gotten any response. If I wanted to get somebody from Bear on, I don't even have to reach out to Dylan. I could literally just message Bear on Instagram and be like, hey guys, really want to do an episode. Can you get me in contact with somebody? Just like that, I'll have a contact.
It's funny you mentioned that too, without getting too far off a tangent. I really want to get into reviewing bows more.
Yeah.
I think I can bring a perspective to it that's a little different than everything else out there. And I think I can do a good job. And I've reviewed a couple of bows and kind of changed the way I've done things. I've reached out to several bow companies about, hey, can I get a bow to review? I will happily send it back. If it's not in condition you're happy with and you send it back, charge me for it. I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Like basically taking away, I'm giving you free advertising, free marketing, taking away any risk you have. I'm happy to give you a card that you can charge if there's any problems with the bow when it gets back to you, so on and so forth. The only company that's ever responded was Bear. They gave me information for their marketing guy, and I sent away an email and never heard anything back, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because at least they responded on social media.
Yeah.
I have connections, legitimate, like people I consider friends inside of other bow companies, and I can't even get a response back about whether or not I can get a hold of a bow for these companies to review. Yeah. And these are guys that like, I've called them and wished them Merry Christmas. Like hope buddies. The family's doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like people that I would consider friends, not necessarily were besties or anything, but friends. Like if I see you in public, I'm going to say, what's up? I want to shoot the breeze with you. And I've got nothing. So there's a lot to say of Bear of that. Now, to dive into the weeds about kind of the shops and stuff, typically like margins on Bear's entry line stuff are not as good.
Yeah.
And so like from a shop perspective, another thing that makes it really hard for a shop is half of Bear's budget line is available anywhere, including Amazon. And I can't touch pricing that I can touch on Amazon.
True. That is true.
So from a bow shop perspective, it makes it very hard to carry Bear's really like budget entry stuff.
Yeah.
Because I have to sell it for $60 more than they can order on Amazon with Prime and free shipping and get it in 2 days.
Yeah, I mean
Now,
that's kind of like the bad. I mean I'm not gonna say that's what's killing bow shops, but the thing that
it's part of it.
yeah, people miss out on like, okay, yeah, can I go on Amazon right now and order an Adapt 2? Yeah, of course. But guess what? Then I have to set it up. Then I have to tune it. Then if I don't know how to do that, you're still going to a bow shop, or your bow's gonna
So
shoot like crap.
here's the problem with that. Um, you and I've personally dealt with this. Not since I've been running my own shop, but since I've worked in some other shops and stuff. You'll go on Amazon, you'll buy an Adapt 2, you'll bring it into the shop, ask me to set everything up. I'll set everything up, and then I'll say, okay, that'll be $100. And you'll go, what? Why is that $100?
True.
Well, it just took me 2 hours to set everything up, set it to your draw length, set it to your draw weight, to tie your peep in, make sure it's set properly, give you a little bit of lessons on how to shoot properly so that we can get your pen sighted in and get you paper tuned up, because without those lessons, I can't get you paper tuned up. So we just spent 2 hours doing all this stuff, and I did all of these things, and that's why it cost $100. Well, now
Yeah.
they're mad they have to spend more money. So then it's really hard to have that conversation and be like, yeah, we have the Adapt 2 on the shelf. It's $40 more than you paid on Amazon, and I just set it all up and done all that stuff for free.
Yeah.
But they don't think about that, and you can't tell them that because you're already telling them it's going to be an extra $100, and now you're the bad guy.
Yeah, that's been a big push that I've had lately. Because I got really good buddies that run the local shop, and they've helped me out with my bows. I mean, dude, I don't even think I've told you the journey of choosing the right bow I've been on this year, because I got rid of that paradox, got an obsession. I liked it at first.
It didn't fit you right, though.
I ended up hating it. And then I had already shot the Whitetail Max and loved it, but then I got to shoot the Obsession, and I was like, oh, well, this is different. This is cool. I'm going to try this out. Not the worst bow I've ever shot, but definitely not the best. And that's not a knock on Obsession. It's just, it wasn't for me.
Didn't fit you. It wasn't for you. Yeah.
So I went through pretty much the ringer this year on that. And I think that's why, because I'm not, I have no partnership with Bear. I'm not, promoting anything other than, what Dylan's doing. I have reached out to them, and I've told them multiple times, like, look, you guys are all I've ever actually hunted with. I mean, I started with the Bear, got another one, tried going into something else, didn't like it. I'm back at it. And I will literally push Bear for as long as I can, because I've shot Matthews, I've shot Hoyt, I've shot everything but a Prime, honestly, and like a Gearhead, and maybe an APA. Right? Like, there's a few little ones there I haven't shot, but I've shot most of them, and they're all good. But the only one that I feel comfortable with is a Bear, and it's that I got to that point because of a good shop that would explain, like you were saying, like, look, yes, this bow costs $40 more, but I'm going to set it up for you for free. And you didn't go buy it on Amazon, because now when you bring it to me and I've never seen this bow before, we have this exact same bow up on the shelf, and yet why did you order it? Because it was $40 cheaper. Well, now here's $100 charge. Like, you could have saved $60, dude. And I've been pushing a lot for people to realize, like, yes, going to the shops, you might spend a little bit more upfront, but you're actually saving money and you're supporting a local business, and people don't realize that. And that, again, going back to what I was saying, is what I think is kind of killing these shops. So
yeah, there's a lot, dude. Like, man, we could have a 4-hour podcast on that specific subject. The biggest thing is the things I've noticed really that kill shops more than anything, especially locally, like around me, COVID shut down 13 shops that I know of in the state of Illinois. So the problem is, most shops get started by guys that want something to do with their buddies. They aren't actually in it for business.
Yeah.
And then they realize how expensive it is to have a shop. Or they start having to deal with customers that aren't their buddies that they want to hang out with, and realize, Jesus, this is a headache. Another thing is, most shop owners love hunting, love archery, and are awful business people.
Yeah. I believe that, because I've seen it.
Realistically, if you're a good like, and this is going to be awful, but if you're a business person that's motivated to make money, that an archery shop is not the way to do it. It's just
Yeah.
not. It's a terrible idea actually.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
mean,
then
you make a good
the
living, but you're not going to be a millionaire, you know?
yeah, yeah, it's just not.
Yeah.
It I won't say it doesn't happen. It's just very hard. And then the last reason that I see a lot of shops close down is the inability to sell. And it's not that you have to be a pushy salesperson, but like just answering questions, saying, I can't tell you how many shops I've walked into and I don't even get greeted.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to tell
That's a
you,
big thing.
and I'm a little bit different, I think, than most consumers, because when I walk into a small business, my mind is like as a person that owns a small business, I'm already checking off things that I either love or hate about your business.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean I won't patronize your business, but like if I walk through the door and you don't greet me, the chances of me coming back are slim.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you all about my first couple experiences at this shop. Thankfully, the person that gave me those experiences aren't there anymore. And now I'm like really good buddies with the guys that run it. But I didn't go
Yep.
there for 2 years because
Yep.
of that one person. And I'd walk
Yep.
in and like it was, I would walk in and be like, hey, man, I need this done. And he would just kind of look at me and be like, okay. And then he'd go off and do something else. And I'm like, well, do I drop it off? Can we do this real quick? Like,
Yeah,
what the
that's not
heck, man?
acceptable.
Yeah.
Not
So
acceptable.
I don't know, man.
So
It's,
there's a lot of that too, but kind of getting back to the main subject as far as like the big struggle. So, for example, I've already started putting together business plans for my sporting goods store. Bear
mhm,
is a brand I will carry because I like their budget bows. I'm not going to carry any bows that they sell anywhere else, which sucks a lot because I really like the Adapt bows, but
yeah,
I'm not going to compete with Amazon.
you can't.
And the biggest issue I have is nobody enforces map pricing.
What's
If
that?
I could, so map is minimum, it's MAP, minimum advertised pricing.
Okay.
Used to be if a company said the lowest you can sell this for is this pack of broadheads is $39.99,
Yeah.
and a company was selling them for $32.99, they're pulling that broadhead company is not going to pull the product off the shelf and you can't sell my products anymore.
Oh, wow.
And what that did is it made people shop at a shop they liked because of the quality of service, not because it was $2 cheaper.
Yeah.
And what that does is it makes sure that Amazon can't screw small dealers by pricing, or dealers that are working on Amazon, or a guy in his basement or whoever can't screw small dealers because a guy in his basement, a guy like me right now,
Hmm.
that has no ambitions of being more can make $10 off that bow and be happy.
Yeah.
Like I can't be in that position, one, because I respect guys that have shops too much, two, because I want to build a shop. So minimum advertised pricing back when it was actually a sacred thing and companies enforced it was awesome. Nobody enforces it anymore.
Mm,
So I would be more willing to buy Bear's budget level bows if
yeah.
Bear enforced the minimum advertised pricing, but they don't.
Yeah.
So guys can get on Amazon and they can buy it $60 cheaper. I've seen situations where I can personally buy stuff at more expensive than what it's being sold for on Amazon, which means at some point either A, somebody bought out a shop that was going out of business, or B, what tends to be the most likely case is they placed a giant order with this company, so the company cut them a better deal,
Mm, yeah.
which screws me because now they're selling it for $27 and I have to pay $27 for it. So I look at that and go, there is no fucking way I'm putting that on my shelf because I can't make any money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, I didn't realize it went that deep. I'm kind of
This
depressed
is
now.
you shouldn't be depressed. This is more like this is really beneficial if a guy's sitting at home going, man, I'd really love to open an archery shop. Like that's my dream job.
Yeah.
This kind of conversation, and if anybody watching this is in that boat and wants to reach out and talk to me, I'm more than happy. What I'm going to do is serve you a dose of reality. Because
Yeah.
I'm that guy sitting in his basement going, man, my dream is to open an archery shop. I want to do it because I want to help people.
Yeah.
I
Not
want
to
to help
be
people.
living on a yacht.
Correct. I
Yeah.
want to help people be as successful as possible in the woods. That to me is the most important thing for everything I do, for the videos I make, for the arrows I build, the time I spend talking to people. That is the most important thing to me. Because of that, I am willing to jump through hurdles and figure out ways to make the business make sense so that I can do that in the biggest footprint possible. But if you're not a guy that's motivated by that and that alone, an archery shop is the last thing in the world you should start.
Man. Well, I'm sure a lot of guys are going to hear that and be like, "Oh, Trent, you're full of crap, man," and then they're going to try it, and it's not going to work out. But see, look, man, that is one thing about you that I have always said. Whenever someone's like, they'll listen to the episode and like, "Oh, who was this dude?" And I'll tell them like, he will test all this stuff and he will tell it to you straight. A lot of people like to fluff it up. A lot of people like to be like, "Oh yeah, this." They won't tell you the truth, and you'll tell whoever asks you the truth, whether it hurts their feelings or not. And I respect that because this day and age, man, like if you can't shoot straight with somebody, then what are you even doing? You know what I mean?
Well, let's just say I do get a guy that messaged me and wants to open a shop. If I candy coat shit and give him the thought that maybe he can do it and he has any motive besides helping people,
Yeah,
he's going to spend a lot of money to fail.
true.
And then he's going to be pissed because that's the other end of an archery shop. Like I'm looking at 30 grand bare bones to just open the door. And that's like to just put enough shit on the shelf that I feel comfortable opening the door.
Yeah,
$50,000 would put me at a more comfortable space to open the door. If I've sat down before and made out a list of everything I would want to carry, the amount of inventory, I need $250,000.
oof, God,
To have what I would consider to be like a really properly stocked sporting goods store.
yeah.
$250,000.
Damn.
Now, if anybody's got $250,000 and they want, and they want to invest, like I know,
I'll see who I can talk to.
but what I'm saying is like,
Yeah.
that's the other reason why an archery shop or a sporting goods store in general is kind of a losing endeavor, man. You have to have so much startup capital, and most of all of that sinks into inventory that unless you are actively searching out people to sell it to,
Yeah.
will just sit. Will just sit. Like one big advantage I have is having the social media presence I have.
Yeah.
I'm able to, for lack of a better term, leverage that to reach out to people to show them what I have to offer to help move product faster than the average archery shop that has no online presence.
Yeah. That is true. I mean, the reach that you get on YouTube is, especially if you're getting like 50,000 views and stuff, like like you were saying, you're not up there yet. I mean, that 50,000 people is a lot of people, dude. Like I had a video on mine hit 3,000 when T-Bone came on and I'm over here freaking out like, oh my God, like that's a lot of people. So I think you're right. I mean, having the reach that you have is going to help you, get there.
Sure.
But look, man, we've been going for 2 hours.
Yeah, I got a guy coming over to drop off a bow in about 15 minutes too. So
yeah, and my daughter's been upstairs, probably playing on her iPad. Her brain's probably rotted, and my wife is on the way home. So your boy's got to go make some dinner. But yeah, man,
I got to do that too.
Yeah, it never ends, dude. It never ends. It's a constant battle. But look, man, I appreciate you coming on and doing this. Let's not wait as long as we did to do another one because I think there's a lot of substance to what we've been talking about, and we didn't even get a chance to dive into most of it. So
yeah, we really need to pick subjects.
I know. Well, look, dude, I've got bad ADD. Okay, like I'm probably slightly on the spectrum with this stuff. So it's just, yeah. I mean, well enough that I can't pick one subject unless it's like broadheads or broadheads. So,
yeah.
Anyway, man. Yeah. I guess before we sign off here, let everyone know where they can find you. And just give us a shameless plug real quick.
Yeah, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. It's Chest Thumper Outdoors on all of those places. You can reach out to me via email. It's chesttthumperoutdoors@gmail.com. I really like to make a big point of this. I will gladly talk to and help anyone who wants to reach out. You are required to spend $0 with me ever. So if you've got questions about broadheads, if you've got questions about arrows, if you've got questions about tuning, any of that, do not hesitate to reach out on whatever platform you're comfortable with. I am more than happy to just shoot the breeze and talk to you about it. Again, with no requirement to ever spend $1 with me in any way, shape, or form. My ultimate goal is to help you be as successful as possible in the woods, whether you're spending money with me, with somebody, with nobody at all.
And I'm a living testament to that because I have literally spoken with you till midnight about just random archery shit. So
Yep.
it's
Happy to
true,
do it.
guys. He's telling the truth. Look, man, like I said, I appreciate it. And hopefully your wrist heals up quickly. And if you have to shoot a crossbow, I won't judge you. Screw the haters. It's all good. Hopefully that's not the case though. But anyway, man, yeah, I guess, that's it. Let's get off here, go take care of the family, and we'll do this again soon.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.